Hypocrisy.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Law Splaining the Interwebs. I am your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, small law firm in central Minnesota. How are you doing? I am not sorry for being late, actually, because I was talking to my lady, and I like her sometimes. So, deal with it. Hey, guys. So, how are you? Hopefully, Rumble should be going. Is Rumble going? Let me see. Is Rumble not going? Okay, there it is. There it is. What is it? Stupid. It's this one hair that like does this weird double curve. It's like a shitty compound bow. Anyway, whoo. So hey, good to be back. Good to be back. I had a little trip that was unexpected last week, at the end of last week. I tried to let people know that I wouldn't be streaming Wednesday and Thursday for sure, and probably not on Friday. Ended up being definitely not Friday, as things often go. But yeah, the reason was I was down at Mar-a-Lago in Florida to visit the Trump estate for the premiere of Police State, the new movie by Dinesh D'Souza and Dan Bongino. And I'm going to share my thoughts on the movie in a little bit. But of course, we'll do the like journalism thing. And we'll fully disclose all of the stuff that I got, right? Like all the free shit and all the bribing that took place to make me talk about the movie. And then I'll give you my very unfiltered thoughts. And, you know, it's not all glowing, honestly. I have criticisms of the movie, but I think it hits some really good notes. And it's like a lot of these new, I don't want to call them documentaries. They're not quite docudramas. They're like an extended podcast on a subject. And there's a lot of them going around. I mean, Daily Wire, like Sound of Freedom, right? Similar type thing. You get some dramatization, you get some exposition, you get informative stuff. It's a mix of persuasive mediums. And it tells ultimately a story. In this case, it's a story of the growing police state in the U.S. and kind of showing some evidence of it. So we'll get into that for a little bit. I'm not going to dwell on that topic for too long tonight, but I do want to get that kind of down. I want to talk about the experience a little bit. Met some cool people that I'm hoping to have on the show, like Dom Lucre from Lucre. I don't know how to say it, from Twitter. That guy is pretty funny. Got to meet him. Got to meet a couple other guys. I don't know that they want to have. I don't know about like everybody's desire to be publicly associated with things. So I'm not going to name names until I get consent from them or they're on a show or something like that. I did, of course, see Ron Coleman. I'll name him, doxed. And I posted a picture of me and Libs of TikTok, Chaya. I don't know how to say her last name. Chaya. I don't know how to say her name. But she was super nice, very cool. Yeah, Ron Coleman was there, Robert Barnes, Viva Fry. Of course, got to spend a few minutes talking to them. One of my criticisms of the event in general was a lot of it was my fault, but I didn't get as much time like mingling with people as I would like to. There are a bunch of people there, and I kind of found out later that like we might follow each other on Twitter and stuff like that when I would see them tagged and stuff. And so it was like, oh, I kind of would have liked to get to know that person a little bit. But it was still fun. And yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about the movie. That's going to be kind of the opening segment, but not too long. Then we're going to get into Trump taking the stand in New York today because it was just funny. I wish it was recorded, but it's not. So it was transcribed by, some weirdo journalist. But we're going to do that one. We'll read through some of the transcribed testimony because it's funny. So that's good. I got some good news in the mail. Finally, I thought I had more fan mail. I was very, very excited to disappoint the Minnesota Lawyers Professional Responsibility Board again, because that's what they say in everything they have to write. It's so, oh, it's great. They're like, well, of course, Mr. Riqueda's conduct fell short of what we expect from an attorney. And I was like, oh, I feel like you guys are my dad. Like, well, we're just really disappointed in how he did this. But they always have to say there's no discipline. Well, people have been asking me about a couple of these complaints, namely the complaint in my case filed by Monty's lawyer. And then also a long time ago, actually, it's been a year, complaints from people who filed false complaints against me and then got ass mad when I read their names because they thought that they could just go ahead and lie about me to the ethics board to try and get my license taken away or to get me sanctioned in some capacity. But apparently me just saying their names was threats and intimidation, which I've never been threatened or intimidated by my name being said, except by like a parent when I was 5 and they say your full name. Then you know your ass is in trouble at that point. But it was just it was funny because it's like, well, here are all their names. And I think I had talked about releasing their addresses because they gave them to me. I never did, but I talked about it. And apparently that's awful too. And I'm like, wait a minute though. Like, people don't understand. Complaints against lawyers are absolutely privileged. So if you make an ethics complaint about a lawyer and you defame the shit out of him, too bad. There's nothing you can do. You can't sue for a false complaint. You can't do anything retaliatory to them. They just tarnish your reputation. They can post their shit all over the internet too and be like, here's what I said about. Sorry, it's privileged. But then at the same time, I feel like you could say who did this. I mean, they put their name on it. They have to swear under penalty of perjury that it's true, even though when it's obviously not true, they never seem to get that whole perjury charge. But, whatever. But people have been asking me, they're like, well, how'd those turn out? And I was like, what? I guess I won because they stopped talking to me about it forever ago. Well, I finally got letters saying that I won. So that was cool. That was good. So those are officially done now. I thought they were officially done like 4 fucking months ago. Because it's been, well, the latest one was like, I figured that was 4 months ago. Remembering that my lawsuit started in December. I served in December of last year. So that's been going almost a year already too. So all of this stuff happened way early and just now getting resolved. Shows you that lawyers' professional responsibility boards move at the speed of, well, not myocarditis. That's quick. But other things, I guess. Anyway, so I got good news there. But yeah, we'll be talking about Trump taking the stand. And a manifesto is out. A manifesto, I think. I don't know if it is because I'm hearing that it's not official. Not official, which is a weird way of saying not true, just not official. So we're going to talk about that, I guess. Because, you always kind of wonder where some of these mass shooters go. Because if they're a right-wing gun nut, right, who has the Second Amendment tattooed on his nipples, like that guy's going to be on the news forever. His name will be in every household. But if they're the Nashville shooter and they're not a Second Amendment red-blooded American who's like about to talk to you from a Chevy Silverado or whatever, like, I love that look, right? It's the glasses, the big beard, and like the hat that might be on backwards. It's someone, liberals are funny like once every 17,000 years, but someone compiled a list of all like the screenshot of all of those videos. And it just said, when you're about to learn the truth about COVID. And I fucking died because it was so funny. Because that became like the meta for a little bit in conservative worlds, like to do the 3-minute portrait video. You're in your truck, you got your big beard, your American tank top on, your sunglasses. You're like, you know what? I'm just tired of this. I'm about to tell you all the truth. And then they just go through it, and it's like, God, it's all of them, only all of the videos. But yeah, so when it's not that person though, sometimes they just disappear. Their names go away. Shootings like, oh yeah, there's shooting every day or whatever. Just not that one. Not that one. And so I figured we'd talk about it, but I don't know if YouTube will let you, which is kind of weird. So we'll have to see how we can resolve that problem, I guess. But hey, that's kind of the show layout for tonight. These things are always weird, man. Coming back after missing several days is always like, it's a little nerve-wracking. You're like, do I even know how to do this? The answer is no, right? Like, you didn't know how to do this before you left, so you certainly aren't going to know now. But it's just a weird feeling to come back and broadcast again. So thanks for being here. I was supposed to be on Camelot's show tonight, but my week and my weekend got really busy, and then a bunch of shit hit the fan, and it's like, well, you know, sometimes it goes. So sorry about, you know, I did want to do a movie night last night, and I've got a really good suggestion from a friend. I didn't get to do that because last night was complicated. We'll just leave it at that. And sometimes that's where we need to leave things. But anyway, I guess let's get into this fucking Police State premiere, right? Okay. People ask me if I'm going to like show clips or whatever. I don't think that I have permission to show like the movie itself. I don't know how clips work. I'm pretty sure you can watch it on Rumble, or Locals, or however Dinesh distributes his movies now. I know they did have it in some select theaters. I don't know if it's still there, but Police State is a joint effort between Dinesh D'Souza and Dan Bongino. Dan Bongino, of course, is very high up at Rumble and very involved there. I think he's one of the founders or something. I don't remember. Too many words and names, but you guys may know who Dan Bongino is. If not, he's a guy who talks about stuff. I've never watched his show, but here we probably resonate on some ideas. And you know, he's a big Rumble supporter. I think he's the biggest creator on Rumble as far as watched hours, but I'm not sure. So they got together and they did this movie called Police State, and it focuses heavily around January 6th, but not just January 6th, right? The concept of police state is just that you are being monitored or watched by your government and policed in what you say and do, kind of flying in the face of our notions of freedom and free association, free speech, free expression, all of those sort of values that we hold dear. Now, as a disclaimer and full disclosure, obviously, I was invited to the premiere of this thing, which entails a certain level of, I guess, bias. I don't have any reason to be biased towards this event or towards this movie. But if people want to infer bias from the circumstances, please do so. By invited to the event was held at Mar-a-Lago. I did not buy a ticket, and I technically received I think 3 bourbons, Woodford Reserve bourbons. So not high dollar bourbons. I had 3 of those and had a bag of popcorn because I forgot to grab food. There was food there. My travel and hotel accommodations and were not paid for. Those were all paid for by me. No one gave me any of that. I did not get a swag bag. There's not like stuff that came with this. It's literally an invite to the property to come see the movie. Lady Rackets and I went together. If you want to see a picture of us at the event, it is up on my Instagram page. She looks absolutely lovely. And sometimes I look tall. So there's that. But But yeah, the total compensation was, I guess, the reception at Mar-a-Lago, where there was food and beverages, and then just the ticket to see the movie. But yeah, all of my travel expenses were on me. My hotel, the Uber, all of that stuff was paid for. They didn't pay for any of that. I didn't ask anybody to. No one offered, none of that. So I don't know if anybody else got the same thing, but that's my full disclosure statement. Other than that, I've never talked to Dinesh or Dan Bongino. But both seem like interesting guys. I would love to talk to either of them and interview them. Absolutely. But I've never done so. I did not get the opportunity to meet them at the event. I did not take the opportunity to meet them at the event because they looked kind of swamped, and I don't wait in lines for much of anything. So, like, figure, well, there'll be another chance for me to meet them. I met other people who are very interesting to me as well. One of them I met is a guy who did the music for the movie, and I do want to have him on for a direct examination. I actually talked to him about it because he composes music to make moods. But that's for another day. I met a January 6th defendant whose trial is coming up next summer. Very nice guy. Would love to talk to him too. I met a couple guys who are in the sort of Christian sphere around like Christian influencers, also like just people trying to do good Christian work in their communities. Really, really nice to meet them as well. So that was a lot of fun. The movie itself, let me get out my first and biggest gripe about it. I don't know what the runtime is, but it felt really long. It felt really long to me. Now, maybe it felt long because I'm pretty familiar with the subject matter. It's a subject I care deeply about. I hate police states. I hate surveillance states. I hate the idea that our government monitors what we are consuming, saying, doing, everything. But I know that subject matter, and I know it pretty well. That could have impacted how long the movie seemed, but it seemed too long to me. So we're going to get that right out in the open. That was, by the end of it, I was like, okay. Actually, well before the end of it, I was sitting there going, all right, I think it's about over. And then they'd start a new segment about someone else. And I was like, okay. I mean, I got it though. Like, I get it. So for me, it was a bit long, but I'm impatient. 90 minutes is the longest movie I want to sit through. How long is this thing? Let me see. I wasn't like watching the time. Police State movie. 2023. Felt like it was 20-23 minutes. Where's the fucking runtime? An hour and 50 minutes. Okay, so 20 minutes too long by default. Just admit it sucked, you coward, but I don't think it sucked. It's just too long. So anyway, the things that I thought the movie did really well is it's really in the dramatizations of an actual police encounter that these people go through. And many of the people in the movie went through these encounters. Right. There were moms that were arrested in front of their kids. Their dads that are arrested in front of their kids. If you notice the common theme, if you have kids, you're going to get arrested in front of your kids. They're going to make your children watch you get arrested. They'll show up before your kids go to school. They will bust your door down and they will arrest you in front of them so that your children know that you are bad. And they nailed those parts, how intense it is, the entire process, the humiliation of it. And I think that is a critical thing for people to see. If I would say that the one thing that I want people to see this movie for, specifically those things, because you can't help get a little bit of that heart palpitation going. You go, okay, when the fuck does this happen to me? When does my door get busted down? When do my kids have to watch me get arrested because I tweeted something about COVID or I tweeted something about an election? That's scary, man. And they nailed that one. That is probably the most powerful portion of the movie. Those are dramatized. They're not actual things. So, there's some fiction going into it, but it's the truth behind what's happening there. And the demeanor contrasting the seriousness of the, action for the people who are getting arrested and persecuted by the state with sort of the jovial mentality of the state. The very, this is a day at work for them, which is a cynical approach, right? A day at work is suppressing the rights of their citizens. And in a way, yeah. Always remember that. Like the people who enforced COVID orders. They locked down their neighbors' businesses. They held people inside their homes. They gave tickets to people. They arrested people for showing up without masks. Kicked people out of churches. Like those are the people who did it. They're just, for them, it's like, well, can't have this happen. There's a rule. Now, not all of them, obviously. Some people resisted, but hey, that's the ropes. And so I thought that was the best part of the movie. There is a lot of exposition and a lot of interviewing. I thought the interviews with the people who had been through it were really good. Great stories. I thought the discussion back and forth between Bongino and Dinesh is kind of the exposition part where they put it together for you. I just don't think that was as necessary. I thought that was a little overdone, in my opinion. Dinesh and Dan are both like very accomplished speakers and creators. So it's not like, they're bad at what they do or anything, but it's just like, no, your movie's selling the story. I don't think you guys need to come in and hammer it home for us dummies. But it is at the end of the day, that's the movie was. I think it's a solid flick, especially for people who aren't super familiar with what a police state looks like and how close we are to being in one. 2020 and 2021 and 2022 and 2023 have been this very terrifying time for the idea of rights and freedom and liberty. By the way, what's up to Camelot and Camelot Raiders? Welcome, guys. Thank you. Thank you for being here. But it really was scary and still is. Like, you don't know. That one guy is going to prison for making memes telling people that they can text their vote in the election to a number as if it were American Idol. Like, and they're like, well, he deceived people. And you're like, if that's deceptive, I don't want to live in the nation where people are deceived by that. It's obviously fake. But hey, that guy's going to prison. That's kind of like a police state. That's the terrifying aspect of it. And if people aren't familiar with it, it does a good job dramatizing that and putting it forth from people who have really been through it, as well as, like just laying it on the table in front of you. If you know a ton about this and the suppression of rights and all of that stuff, I do think it gets a little long in the tooth. It gets a little boring. And for that aspect, I don't know. I wouldn't recommend me to watch it because I wrote my final paper in law school on the digital surveillance state. I talk about freedom, liberty, First Amendment all the time. I'm familiar enough with what's been happening to the January 6th people, as well as, COVID deniers. I've been censored myself from a couple platforms that had to do with the government's input. So it's like, do I need to spend 2 hours watching a movie about the police state? Well, no, I know about it, but other people who maybe don't, cool. It's certainly a decent watch. Like, it's not bad. It's just, I don't watch much of anything. So that's kind of my very frank and honest review of the movie. Again, the things that it does well, it does really well, hammering home the reality of these arrests and the oppression that you go through. You do not feel innocent. You do not feel loved, and you do not feel like you have rights. And so showing that on screen for some people is a really critically essential thing. And I think we've seen that just in general in the United States with the advent of the police body-worn cameras. As more and more of these body-worn cameras are out there, more and more people are seeing exactly what they're seeing exactly what goes on. And police departments aren't able to lie as much. So that, having anything that brings it home helps get more people on the idea of freedom. Because once you, kind of a central theme of the movie is once you're in a police state, once you lose it, it's gone. And if you think about the police states that are out there, North Korea, China, think about how long it takes to fight back on that stuff. So, but yeah, that's it. That's the movie. Again, a lot of people are probably going to like it more than me because I don't watch anything at all. So some people might be like, "Oh, this is great." Ron Coleman did a review on Twitter. I was sitting next to Ron for the movie. Just a delightful dude, by the way. And I think I'm going to have Ron on sometime soon. I want to talk about these gag orders that Trump keeps getting from a First Amendment perspective, because as a non-practicing lawyer, I keep getting told that my understanding of the First Amendment is wrong for some reason. And so we're going to try and have Ron on maybe to talk about some of this stuff, because it is, as an experienced First Amendment litigator that I've made fun of on several occasions, it's always fun to have another perspective there. Plus, he's just fun to talk to, and he's a delightful man. But he has his review up on Twitter, so you're welcome to check that out if you want another perspective. I don't know what he said. I retweeted it, but it was long. I didn't want to watch it. All right. With that, woo. Oh, hey guys, have you heard? There's no drama happening in the independent comics community right now. Absolutely zero. There is zero drama. So, just want to get that out there. No drama's happening. I'm glad that thing died down, because really, like, it was talked about to death. So it's over now. It's all done, and it's cool. Occupant 42 says, "A toast, please, sir, to my cat Everest, who I had to put down today. God gave me the companion I need. She would only insist on attention when I was slipping into depression. I thank God for her." Oh, man. Occupant 42, a cheers to you. A toast to your lovely cat, Everest. The thing about pets are a pain in the ass. You have to take care of them. You have to do all this stuff. And it's just really terrible. But then they do that thing, right? They do that pet thing, and they come up to you and they make you feel appreciated for just a second. And cats are assholes 99% of the time, but the 1% they're not is so fulfilling. And they become more than a pet. They become, like you said, a companion, a friend. And losing them is the worst part of owning them. Cheers to you. Cheers to Everest. May your cat rest in peace, and may you rest with good memories. Naptown Nerd says, "You're talking about pets or kids here?" I was talking about pets. Kids are never nice to you. What are you talking about? Just kidding. Just kidding. I will not be commenting further on the drama. I just thought it was funny because the drama is still going. And it's like, okay, guys, this is going on so long. So long. It's like metastasizing out into the community. Is great. Whew. With that, let's get into this Trump thing, because I think it's really important. It's really important to see what's going on with Trump all the time in these fucking trials. And I'm not the biggest fan of covering Trump all the time. I'm really not. But he's got all these different trials, and they're all like really kind of important. So that matters. That makes it a pain, because you kind of have to cover it. But so I have a news article about his testimony, and then we've got the actual transcription of his testimony. I think it's important to do this too. Oh shit. Hold on. Let's see. I think it's really important to contrast the media coverage with what's actually happening in a courtroom. And this one, since it's not broadcast, we have to kind of just go off of transcriptions. But here we go. Let's start here. So this is in the context of Trump's civil fraud case in New York. So a couple of things need to be said about this case, because I still don't know if people are quite familiar with procedurally kind of the nature of this case. And I know the media isn't, and they never have been, because the media said that Trump didn't get a jury trial in this case because his lawyers forgot to check a box, which was not true in the slightest. You cannot get a jury trial for this case. Also, people are confused because it is the New York Attorney General who's bringing the case, but it's not a criminal case. It's a civil case, which means it is not proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And you don't have the same rights that you would have in a criminal trial. So the other aspect of this is that the judge is the jury. Like, there isn't a jury. It's a bench trial. Again, Trump didn't have an option there. The media said he did. He did not. The judge eventually came out and cleared that up several weeks later. Thanks, Judge. But he could not have gotten a jury trial in this case. Why does that matter? Okay. Here's the deal. You have a couple types of cases that are out there. You have very fact-specific cases, and you have very legally heavy cases. Now, in some instances, the facts of your case can be very prejudicial, and the facts of the case may line up with angering a jury, where you would want a more analytical legal approach, because while the facts may be ugly or distasteful in some way, the legality could hinge on a distasteful fact that you need someone to look past their biases and look to the law. And juries aren't always great at that. Now, judges only think they're great at that, and judges only say they're great at that. And some judges may make an effort to do that, but that's the idea. So in these cases where you have very, very distasteful facts, like maybe you're a complete asshole, right? You lie about everything. You're a piece of garbage to the people you're around. You're verbally abusive to everybody. Everybody's got a bad story about you, but you still didn't do the thing you're accused of, right? You don't meet the legal definition for it. That's when you'd kind of want a bench trial. You want a jury trial almost every other time. They're just really useful in that way of kind of cutting through the law sometimes and getting to a narrative and telling a story and building a story that people can identify with and go, yeah, that doesn't seem illegal, whether it is or not. And so you kind of get these two competing worlds. The problem is, this is a case that would benefit from a jury trial, as much as it's weird to say that in New York. New York jury trial against Trump doesn't sound great for a jury pool, but it's better than the judge he's pulled. And the judge has no problem taking testimony that you would want to be before a jury. For example, former Trump attorney and admitted perjurer Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen gets to testify against Trump. Now, if you've got a jury trial, first of all, you can object to the testimony based on his fraud, his actual fucking fraud and perjury charges and convictions. But even if you don't get his testimony excluded entirely, you can impeach his credibility with his documented convictions of dishonesty. Wait, you're just a liar at every opportune moment. You lied for Trump. You lied to Trump. Like, you lied on behalf of yourself. You lied later. You lied here. You lied there. You're convicted of lying, aren't you? You're kind of a liar all the time, aren't you? Kind of a lying piece of shit. You liar, you piece of garbage, right? You could do that over and over and over, and you can really hammer them on this stuff, and you could shred their credibility in front of a jury. That's part of what you do. And the jury, you hope, doesn't know this person. Again, these are unique facts because you got Donald Trump. A little bit different than most things. But at the end of the day, in a normal person situation, you want a jury because you want to be able to shred the liars. You want to show the jury that they're lying because you don't want someone like Michael Cohen's testimony, in this case, if you're representing Donald Trump. The judge, however, the judge is immune to such petty concerns as admissibility of evidence because you can't prejudice Donald Trump in the eyes of the honorable and unbiased judge of New York. How could you? He's wearing a robe. He's got a robe on. And so you get this thing where they will listen to testimony that they would not let a jury hear, but they will exclude it in their mind. They'll carve out what they need to know because they are unbiased arbiters who are erudite and astute enough to know how to remove their own preconceptions and prejudices from their analysis. And it's amazing because they all think they can do it. They'll tell you all day why they should not allow evidence in if it was anybody else sitting there. But if it's them, they're like, yeah, but I know that, so it's fine. So, you bet I played an erudite on EverQuest? No, I played a gnome and then I played a human. But anyway, that's the issue Trump is facing here. He's also got an extremely biased judge. Reminder that this judge has already just determined, he just decided already that Trump commit fraud. He just did. Trial hadn't happened. He's like, yep, summary judgment on the fraud. Now we're just doing trial on damages. Got it. Fraud's done. Why? Oh, I don't know. Because they said Mar-a-Lago is $18 million. Or was it 25? I don't remember. But I tell you what, guys, I was just there. That is not a $20 million property. That was not a $20 million property. That's not a $50 million property. There's no way. There's no way to look at that place and look at that number and go, yeah, that makes sense. You can't reconcile it. It's impossible. Because you're driving down this road where every property looks like a $20 million property. I mean, the beachfront that is across the street, like the front yards of these houses, these fucking castles that you're driving past, the front yards are across the road because the front yards go up to the beach. And they'll have like a guest house up there in this beautiful manicured area. It's like, that looks like $1 million property right there. Just the fucking shoreline that they have has got to be $1 million by itself with nothing on it. Then you put this giant house on it. And it's like, there's no way. There's no way. I've seen $20 million houses. Haven't been in them, but I've seen them. And this obviously location and structure easily more. But the judge determined that Trump lied. So he's not biased, right? And Trump has insinuated and outright stated that the judge's clerk is biased. Now, the judge's clerk did run as a Democrat in New York for some position, has also donated thousands and thousands of dollars to Democratic organizations and candidates. But I mean, who's counting? Like, what notion would anyone consider that person to possibly be biased? I mean, that would be crazy to say that that's a political animal that would have motive to be biased against Trump. Like, that's insane. And because Trump said that and said her name, there's a gag order in this case. And I've talked a little bit about the gag order. I think it's entirely unconstitutional. I don't know they're going to bother fighting it. I don't know that it's ultimately going to matter too much. The judge has already imposed a fine on Trump. It's a prior restriction on speech about a public official. And the judge and these comments are made outside of court. That's the other thing. The gag order covers social media posts and media discussions and interviews where Trump has stated that he believes that this court, this judge, this court staff are biased against him. And the reason Trump says it is, like him or not, and I don't care. If you hate Trump, great. I think he's got a lot of problems. I think he does some good stuff. He's not my superhero or anything. And I don't care if people love him or literally hate his guts. But of course they're biased. It's obvious that they're biased against him. And I want to address one more thing before we get into the testimony today. One of the things the judge said the other day, and this pissed me off, and I have a whole Twitter thread about it, where I argued with a fucking idiot named James Castle. And James, if you happen to see this, my God, dude, you're dumb even for a Canadian. That's bad. But anyway, not the Canadians who watch this show. You guys are obviously smart. Just kidding. But we may go through that thread sometime because it was God, it was pain. It was such pain going through it. But the reason I made the thread in the first place or commented was because the judge said, if you say another thing, I'm going to impose another gag order. It's like, well, that is a gag order. Like saying you can't say anything else or I'll do a gag order is just a gag order. You just haven't made the order. You just threatened it. Okay, cool. Great. It's your last warning or whatever. And it gets to this idea, though, that the clerk is a government employee employed by the judge, judicial officer of the state. You get to criticize them outside of court. Of course you do. It may not be the wisest thing to do. You attract the ire of the judge. But hey, this judge has had ire towards Trump and his team the entire time. So where's the risk? Trump's already been ruled against in what may end up being a completely appealable final order in the case when it ultimately comes down, because the bias is dripping out of that courtroom. It is just dripping. So Trump makes comments about this person, calls them biased. That's the harassment that they've had to endure. Trump says they're biased against me. Partisan hack. Chuck Schumer's girlfriend, I think, maybe. I don't know. Maybe just a little roadhead. I don't know what he ended up saying. But I know he accused her of being like Chuck Schumer's girlfriend or something like that. And that, that pissed the judge off. The judge called it misogynistic or whatever. But the judge the other day is like pounding on the table because Trump's lawyers asked to see the notes passed between the clerk and the judge. The clerk would hand the judge notes during the trial. And the judge says, I have an absolute right to receive advice and counsel from my clerk. Almost. And these are just the little things that judges do and people do when they talk about legal issues where they overstate something where nuance really matters. In the same way of saying, I have an absolute right to kick someone out of my store for any reason. Well, unless that reason is because they're black, right? Like you can't do that if you base it on race. We have a list of rules where you can't do that. Now, maybe you should be able to. I mean, personally, I'm of the free association brand myself. And if you kick black people out of your store, I'd let them come steal from mine. Like, it's fine. But the idea is that you can't actually kick someone out of your store for any reason. You can kick them out of your store for no reason, but not any reason, because there's some reasons that we say are not okay. In the same way, the judge cannot do this. He cannot have absolute access. And we actually have proof of this. There was a judge. I don't know if you guys remember. We covered the story because it was funny. The judge and her court staff were sending emails and messages during cases, and they were extremely inappropriate stuff. I would say, like calling people fat and stuff like that was great, super funny. But judges do not have an absolute right to this stuff because their communications have to be properly levied in the context of what's being said. And at some point, you might get to pierce those communications. And it just annoys me that the judge is like, I have an absolute right. It's like, well, you have an absolute right to receive advice from your clerk, but we don't know if that's what you're doing because you're biased and the clerk is biased. Like, there's no way around it. They obviously are. Does that mean Trump should win? No. Does that mean Trump should lose? No. It just is a fact you have to deal with. You have a biased judge. You have a biased clerk. Trump knows it. His lawyers know it. And they're going to be, I think they're goading this judge to show his hand. And he kind of has. So that said, we got a couple chats and then we'll get into the testimony today because Trump took the stand in his own defense today, which is great because it's Trump talking, which is always a riot. Soren Guardian says, what did you think about the Daily Wire CEO getting butthurt over Crowder scooping the Manifesto? I didn't see that. I like making fun of the Daily Wire people. So I'll have to look for it. RPE Zach says, I just found out my little sister's been diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. Please pray she can win the fight. She has a GoFundMe to help her keep her truck to get to her appointments. Okay, guys, if you want to look at this GoFundMe, I'm going to share it. I'll share it here in all 3 chats. I can't vouch for it, but you guys can check it out if that's a cause you feel like donating to. Please give it some consideration. Carrie says, yet the insurrection at the White House is okay. Jaster 22, welcome to Paralegal. He also says it was 18 million. But that is insane to say Mar-a-Lago's 18 million. 17 acres, something like 58 bedrooms, 38 bathrooms, 17 to 20 tennis courts, and a massive 20,000 square foot ballroom. How's that 18 million? Yeah. I was in that ballroom, and that ballroom looks like it's $18 million, frankly. Frankly, to be honest, terrific. Wonderful ballroom, beautiful, gold filigree everywhere, a little bit gaudy. Okay, let's do this. Let's do this. So Trump clashes with the judge, defends business record in testimony at New York fraud trial. Testifying under oath in a New York courtroom with the fate of his family's business empire on the line. I mean, I don't know if that's true. Former President Donald Trump lashed out against the judicial forces that put him there. Trump has already been found liable for fraud, a word he lobbed at the judge overseeing the civil trial against him. He said New York Attorney General Letitia James should be ashamed of herself. She should. And again, found liable for fraud was literally because a judge just decided so. Over the course of 4 hours on the stand on Monday, Trump repeatedly strayed from the questions, earning reprimands from New York Judge Arthur Engoron on several occasions. The judge, who was seated just feet away from Trump, will decide the outcome of the bench trial himself. The case stems from a $250 million civil lawsuit filed by James' office. Oh, yeah. I forgot to mention this part. I got sidetracked. About the case. It's a civil case, and it's not brought by any victims, alleged victims of Donald Trump. It is brought by the Attorney General on behalf of the people of New York, and in particular, the banks of New York, who Trump borrowed from and paid back in full. Now, the argument is that Trump's fraudulent statement of his value or of assets values induced banks who have no way to check the value of assets at all, because they've never lent money before, induced the banks to give him more favorable interest rates and terms. Therefore, if he's paying lower interest rates, he's paying less money in profit to the banks. That is literally what this case is about, because none of the banks were not paid. So the case itself is the Attorney General of New York protecting the extra profit of the bank for their civic charity of lending money to Donald Trump so he could make money. Wow, that's really nice of New York to do that. Aren't you glad to know, guys, that if a bank fucks you over, is the state of New York coming to save you? But if you fuck a bank over, in a way that the banks have all of the ability to check and they hold the veto. There's nothing that can make that bank lend anybody money. There's no rule. Well, I shouldn't say anybody. They can't force a bank to lend a white billionaire money. They cannot do it. There's no law that's like, oh, well, banks redline out billionaires. No, of course. Like they can compel banks to loan to black people and low credit score areas. They can do that, but they cannot force a bank to lend money to a billionaire. There's no rule to do it. No bank has to associate with Donald Trump ever. But they all did voluntarily. And they're like, oh, he lied to us. How would we know? It's like, I don't know. Maybe your team of appraisers, maybe your accountants, your actuaries, anybody who does this that you hire and pay millions of dollars to. Okay. I guess. Like any of them could have helped you see through the apparent fraud. But yeah, so this is a case brought for the extra, 1 to 2 points that banks may have charged Donald Trump. They estimate that to be $250 million worth of value. This whole thing is a fucking sham, obviously. If you haven't figured that out, that this trial is like, whatever you think about Trump, again, this trial, I gotta enlarge myself again. Giggity. Whatever you think about Trump is irrelevant here because the trial is a sham. It's a political hit on Donald Trump. It's obviously a hit on Donald Trump. There's no public interest in making sure the bank made enough money from one person in transactions. Like, that is insane to think of, that the resources of the state are filing on behalf of banks who did not file their own cases. These banks could have brought this case against Trump. I'll tell you why the banks didn't. They didn't think there was any way they could win. Because how could they? How could the bank win this case? They went into the transaction as a skilled, well-versed partner in the transaction, a party to the transaction, a party to the suit. They could have at any time demanded anything, and they always had the power to say no. They could have checked the lies. They could have asked for more information. They could have sent their own people to assess anything, because they could have just said, look, this is a lot of risk for us. We want to send our own guy in there. We want to do a full-on inspection, an invasive inspection of the property to make sure it's structurally sound and all of this stuff. There's no apparent defects. They could do all of this because Trump could just say, look, I'll go to Deutsche Bank. They're Deutsches, but you're douches. I don't like you. Very uncouth. Not good business. You're probably going to fail. I know a thing about failing businesses, and yours is failing. He could do that, and they could do the same thing. They could say, nope, we'll wait for the next billionaire who's buying up property or borrowing on property. Very easy for them to do this. It was all voluntary transactions on terms that were mutually agreed upon with no force of law empowering either side. It's literally like the most pure type of contractual agreement you can get. Both parties are moneyed. Both parties are savvy. Both parties are represented by competent counsel and competent people all the way down the line. And all of them could argue. But it's mutually beneficial to both parties to do the transaction. So they did it. The banks didn't think they could win. Letitia James thought she could squeak it by, and she may, because of the bias. Matthew Self says, if the property was actually overvalued and Trump would have only been able to borrow a percentage less than the value stated, when the banks had made less due to the interest being charged being on a lesser amount. Possibly. So you're saying, if I understand you, that if he wasn't able to borrow as much, then he wouldn't have borrowed as much. Therefore, it would also be less money that way. Sure. I just don't know if he actually borrowed into the overage values that they're claiming, right? Into the overage values that would constitute fraud. Because that's another thing. We have testimony and we have numerous statements from other land and property moguls in New York who say, of course we lie about the values. Of course you inflate your own values. Everybody does. Trump did it more. He's a badder liar than us. But of course they do, because you don't actually know what you can sell a property for. These properties don't get transacted like a fucking Magic the Gathering card, except when they do, it's a Black Lotus, right? Well, how much are you going to pay for it? Well, that depends on the details, doesn't it? That got real nerdy. Sorry to go full nerd on you, but no, that's the thing. It's like such a rare occurrence for having skyscrapers, walk into a bank and be leveraged as an asset for a loan. And it's like, this isn't a new construction home loan that they're doing 50 of that week. These are big involved processes, and everybody was party to all of it. But Matthew, yeah, it's possible that he could have gotten more money. I don't know that that's actually one of the claims. I know the main thing is they're talking about the favorability of the interest rates themselves, being that Trump was able to get more money at a lower rate than he otherwise would have. Because I guess that's the deal, right? It's the lower interest rate in general. But maybe that has happened too. I don't know. All right, so back to this. Case stems from a $250 million civil lawsuit filed by James's office, which accuses Trump, his two oldest sons, and Trump Organization and several executives of a years-long fraud scheme. The state alleges the defendants inflated the value of the company's assets and Trump's personal wealth to obtain better terms on loans and insurance. Attorney General is seeking to recoup $250 million and limit the Trump's ability to do business in New York. Punish, punish, punish. The defendants have all denied wrongdoing, and Trump has repeatedly accused James of pursuing him for political reasons. Obviously, she has. In his testimony, former president and current frontrunner of the 2024 Republican presidential nomination stood by the valuations of various Trump properties that other co-defendants have sought to distance themselves from. The numbers of my net worth are substantially more than the number you have in that financial statement, he said in one exchange. Therefore, you have no case. So Trump's testimony, look at that mugshot. Stone face. Oh, Matthew Self says, I just mean the banks made more money because of the value of the property. The AG is pretty much saying, banks, you shouldn't have made all that money. In theory, but again, higher interest rates on the type of money we're talking about does amount to a lot of money really quickly. Here we go. Back to this. Trump arrived at the courthouse shortly before 10 a.m., made brief remarks reiterating his criticism of the trial. It's a terrible, terrible thing. These are political operatives I'm going to be dealing with right now. It's a very sad situation for our country. Outside the courtroom, James predicted Trump would engage in name-calling, taunts, and race baiting. Oh, God, I hope so. I don't know if he engaged in race baiting, but that's funny. Damn it. Why does everybody get to be funny on the internet? Why is that? But he said, at the end of the day, the only thing that matters are the facts and the numbers. And numbers, my friend, don't lie. Okay, so take away anything you think about this case real quick. Your entire premise is that the numbers are a lie. That's literally the theory of your case, is that the numbers lied and Trump got a favorable deal from the numbers lying. Like, how can you be this functionally retarded? How? Okay. All right. Trump then took the stand. Kevin Wallace, a lawyer from the Attorney General's office, kicked off the questioning by asking Trump about a trust he established to manage his assets before he entered the White House. When he left office in 2021, he took control of the trust only to relinquish it again in July. Testified that he did so because of increasing legal pressure from a number of fronts. So these blind trusts, structuring trusts in different ways gives you different flexibility. Structuring trusts in a way where you maintain control over even the existence of the trust and the as a trustee, the direction of it. So if you're grantor and trustee, you have control over the assets in the meanwhile, and you are the grantor. If it's revocable, you can revoke the trust at any time, and the actual beneficiaries of the trust don't have much of a claim on anything. Now, if it's irrevocable, it is more of a permanent distribution to those beneficiaries, even if you remain the grantor and the trustee. The one thing you can't be on a trust is all three things. You cannot be grantor, trustee, and beneficiary in your sole capacity in all three of them, because that's effectively an illusion. You're just giving yourself something and trying to hide it. It doesn't really work that way. But there are various benefits to controlling and not controlling assets, and one of them is shielding assets from civil liability. If you have an irrevocable trust with the beneficiaries being someone other than you, you can be the trustee. You can even manage those assets. You can manage them pretty poorly or very well and get the same result. You can control those assets for a very long time, and they can be shielded from the ability of someone to recover them unless they're able to pierce the trust. But if you wanted to set up, money for your children that can't be taken by creditors, an irrevocable trust, while you maintain control of those trust assets, you have a duty not to waste them, because they're not yours anymore. It's the beneficiary's future interest. But You have a duty not to waste those assets, but utilizing those assets for the purpose of the trust can be a way to protect them from civil liability. And again, of course, there's ways to pierce all of this, and there's always a back door for a lawyer to shove himself into. But that's the idea. Now, when you run for president, they want you to put your assets in a blind trust, which is a trust managed by someone else, because they don't want you making investment decisions that you have insider information on. They don't force Congress to do this, because Congress gets to do insider trading. That's why. Because Congress wrote themselves that exception. The shit Martha Stewart went to prison for, you would go to prison. Congress doesn't. It's amazing. They're fucking amazing. So here he goes. He testified that he did so because of increasing legal pressure. You and every other Democrat district attorney, attorney general, and U.S. attorney were coming at me from 15 different sides. All Democrats, all haters, Trump said, adding that he had great confidence in his son to manage the assets. Trump repeatedly gave long-winded answers to questions about the valuations of various Trump Organization properties. And Engoron's patience soon wore thin. Christopher Kise, one of Trump's attorneys, encouraged Engoron to allow Trump to give answers in his own way. And I love this. With this witness, it's far more efficient to listen and take it all in, Keyes said, prompting laughter from Wallace. Engoron's voice rose as his anger seemed to boil over, and his microphone struggled to handle the sudden change in volume. No, I'm not here to hear what he has to say, Engoron said, his voice rising. I'm here to hear him answer questions. Sit down. And this is the childish, petulant nature of this judge who's professed his non-biased approach to Trump. This is the shit. This is the shit. Hey, what's up, Jess? You learn to fucking read. This is the shit that they have to deal with. Like, I'm not here to hear what he has to say. No, you are, actually. You are the jury. You're the fact finder. You need to listen to what he has to say. Of course, he means he's not going to listen to his political grandstanding. But that's not quite how it comes out, because he's angry. Why is he angry? He's angry because it's Donald Trump. And he always has been. That's the thing. He is literally an enemy of Donald Trump. It's hard for a lot of people to fathom, because we're not important enough to have an enemy in a bench, like on the bench. But Trump is. And so here we go. Engoron said he was considering drawing negative conclusions from Trump's testimony. This is amazing. We got another speech. I beseech you to control him if you can. If you can't, I will excuse him and draw every negative inference that I can, Engoron said. Now, this is amazing, because if you have a jury and a witness is being evasive enough, you can ask the judge to admonish them, to answer the questions, etc. The judge can dismiss a witness, and he can instruct the jury that they may draw negative inferences from questions that were not properly answered. The judge can instruct the jury that they may do that. This judge is saying, I will draw every negative inference. I will do this. I will do this. And this is the problem with a bench trial and political motive and animus. How can you fight someone that's openly professing that they can and will do it? And they would certainly, a jury would be permitted to draw every negative inference. They'd be permitted to, though, allowed to. This guy knows what that means. Juries don't. They're normal people. Which means you've met them when you go outside and you're like, oh my God, like those are jurors. And so they don't know necessarily what drawing every negative inference is. This judge knows exactly what drawing every negative inference is. is highly prejudicial. It's insane. And those are the type of statements that they'll definitely want for their appeal. After a break, Wallace posed questions about the valuations of Trump and his company's properties, including Mar-a-Lago, Trump Tower in Manhattan, and upstate New York estate known as Seven Springs. He defended the financial statements listing their supposed value, saying that even those valuations that had been determined to be inflated were too low, and he would not be willing to sell several properties because they were worth so much. Correct. Of course. Of course. Hey, what's up, Rita? James's office says the documents known as statements of financial condition inflated his net worth by billions. Trump said the documents included a disclaimer that absolved him of responsibility for inaccuracies. The disclaimer clause says if there's a mistake, if there's something, don't rely on it. Trump said disclaimers always hold up in court, except maybe this court. The other thing at issue here, and we're going to get to the actual testimony now, because some of it's just funny. The other thing at issue is some of the valuations that they're talking about are beyond the statute of limitations. And there's been rulings from the appeals court on this. And the judge has not really engaged those rulings thoroughly. But some of the stuff he's been asked questions about is from like 2011. It's well before the statute of limitations. And that's going to be an issue. And this stuff is all getting factored in. And the judge is just, quote unquote, unbiasedly doing this. John Wick says judges grow more arrogant with age. I think I tend to agree. Age on the bench, I think. Is this arrogant judge suffering dementia? I have no idea. I want to apologize, do a little apologetic for judges real quick, though. I mean, judges are just human. And when you spend your profession lording over the life and liberty of other people, I mean, you're gonna get used to it. You're going to have an inflated sense of worth about your own opinion. Like, you're going to believe that you are more impactful than you should be, right? This isn't rocket science. It's not high-level psychology. It's very basic human psychology. If your voice carries the force of law, then you will utilize your voice in a way that carries your will to whatever it needs to be. They get used to that. They get way used to it. You can hear it. One of the judges here, before he retired, he had said to a client of mine in a different case, he said, I don't care what the law is. I care what I see. And he made rulings. He just did not give a shit that his rulings went against. Appeal it if you want. But remembering, in a lot of these cases, appeals $25,000 to $50,000 that people don't have to appeal a judge's order. And you may lose. So that's fun. That's how these guys operate, because they're told over and over that they're correct by existing. And this is the big risk when you've got a judge like that. It's why bench trials aren't generally favored, though. Again, very strategic to take a bench trial at the right time, and it can be everything, but it can also be the worst thing to happen to you. And in this case, Trump didn't have a choice. Speaking of not having a choice, this is a show brought to you by a sponsor, and that is fieldofgreens.com. Guys, fieldofgreens.com, promo code KNOWS. Field of Greens is an organic superfood. It's really just dried up, like Hillary Clinton, ground up. I don't have a joke for that. Ground up fruits and vegetables. That's all it is. They're powdered. They're put into a container. You put that container into whatever liquid you want. You shake it up. It's got some flavor in it. The flavors are actually pretty good. And you drink it. And it's got just kind of the basic health benefits of having fruits and vegetables in your diet. If you're like me, I don't, these days especially, I love to cook, and I've barely been cooking lately because I just don't have time. And when I do have time, I don't have energy to put together full meals. Tonight, my meals that I cooked, it was 2 ribeye steaks. That's it. That's all I cooked. The sides were salt, flake salt to finish it. That was the only side. I didn't like make a bunch of broccoli and asparagus and bullshit. I just made meat, and then I ate meat. It was wonderful. Now, if I weren't out of Field of Greens from drinking all of it, I could supplement that right now with a nice drink of it. That would add a serving of fruit, a serving of vegetables, and just a general health benefits that come from that, but without being gay by eating all these phallic shaped objects. So guys, check it out. Look, without a joke, it is actually pretty good product. It tastes good. It's enjoyable to drink. You don't like look forward to it going, oh God, I got to drink this every day. No, it's just a nice drink that you can throw with you on your way. If you need liquor with it, you can put liquor with it too. Vodka, water, and that stuff is great. Put it in lemonade. Cool. Whatever you want to do. Field of Greens has different flavors for you to try out. Go ahead and do it and enjoy Field of Greens. Thank you, of course, for sponsoring the show. And I can't wait till I get another. I got to get mine refilled. I drank it all, which is too bad because I need fruits and vegetables because the government said so. But thank you for sponsoring the show to them. Guys, we're about to pop over to Rumble to do the rest of this show. I've got a couple chats here. Nomad Vodka says, Nick, I want to put your Jewish nose between my Polak fingers and honk them. Israel belongs to Jesus Christ. Cool. You can do that. Just buy me at a live show. Luca the Vile says, Leighton Furry, Nick. Now that's rude. Kim Bentz, 2 questions. Did you meet Tucker Carlson? No. If so, did he agree to come on the show? I did not meet Tucker Carlson. I didn't see him there. That was the thing. There's so many people there, and I didn't see a lot of them. I did see Roger Stone. He was close by, but I didn't go talk to him because what am I going to talk to him about? AIDS or whatever. Rage LB says, I'm in Tennessee. Local news confirmed Manifesto. Rick Nikita says, loser. He says, hey, dummy, Hawkboy is dead. Who's Hawkboy? Elephant says, sup, Nick, you were here by an honorary woman because of how much drama surrounds you. Hope you had a great time with Lady R. Well, it's hard not to have a great time with Lady R. Jasser22 says, I swear you need a degree in rocket science to keep up with all of his charges. The Trump charges, yeah, they're everywhere. They're all over the map. And most of them probably aren't even sustainable. Ray L says, Judge, I put a gag order on you, Trump. Too late. I already gagged your wife all night long. It was the biggest, best gagging she's ever had. She's had a couple. She's telling me about them. None that measured up. Jasser also says, your Trump impression is pretty spot on, by the way. He says, this trial is a sham. Sephiris says, did I miss you talking about the manifesto? No, we're going to do that over on Rumble because I have it as a later segment of the show. And we always move over to Rumble after about an hour on YouTube, which is the normal progression of the show and has nothing to do with the manifesto being banned on YouTube. It's just completely incidental that I'll be going over to Rumble and getting to that as the third segment of the show a little bit later. And Alex L says, the numbers don't lie. This lawsuit makes as much sense as Steiner math. I don't even know what that is. Oh my gosh. But we are going to pop over to Rumble. Look, the link to the Rumble show is in the description and the pinned comment on YouTube. I, of course, love my YouTube viewers, but come watch the 700 people already watching on Rumble. Come join them and get your ass in the chat and say a whole bunch of offensive stuff. We'll be over there to finish this one out. And then otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow. There will be a show tomorrow. I believe there's a show every day this week. I think unless something weird happens, that should be the plan. So if you do not follow us to Rumble, I bid you adieu and farewell, and we'll see you then. Everybody else, see you in 25 seconds over on Rumble. Rumble. Oh shit, did I say 77,000? I meant 7,700. I meant 7,700. Oh my God, I'm gonna be like, Ricada inflates his numbers. Like, no, he's just an idiot. That's all. We Hear Well says, why even do YouTube? Well, frankly, as I've stated now for a while, but you may not have heard, it is my contract with Rumble is to, help people see that Rumble exists from YouTube. So we start the show on YouTube, move it over to Rumble. I'm hoping that when my contract is up, that we will be renegotiating that thing, because I think that value is now being is not as valuable as it was at the beginning. Right at the beginning, it was a big deal to get people over to Rumble, so they knew that this show is here. Now I think that it doesn't add value. I think it actually takes away value to have that hard break right at an hour. I'm not a big fan of it. I would prefer to do the whole show on Rumble. So that's what I'm going to be looking for, and using other methods to bring people to Rumble through YouTube. Absolutely. But I would prefer to do the whole live stream over here. I'm just not a big fan of that switch. So that's that. I said 700 people on Rumble, not 7,000. Oh, thank God. Like, yeah, 70. I thought I said 7,700. I thought I said 7,700, but maybe not. Okay. Guys, I need to run to the bathroom real quick. And then we'll get back into this thing. But, this is the story of my 41-year-old prostate or whatever. I need to pee way more often than I used to, which is great. Also, probably because I'm drinking way more caffeine these days. That helps. But anyway, when I get back in just a moment, we will get right back into this. See you guys then.
He drank a fair bit and then realized that his bladder can't handle the liquor inside, leaving us with his chair while he runs up the stairs, hoping the stream doesn't suddenly die. While we are waiting, we'll be laughing at you. The drinking along is what most of us do. The chat is united, getting excited. What you have for us when your feeling is through. When you have a small bladder and no sphincter control, freedom of the liquor doesn't mean freedom from soaking your drawers. Now you're washing your hands and you realize that you've forgotten to scrub both the front and the back. Then you'll grab a quick bite, kiss your lady goodnight, and remember to thank her for all of the snacks. Whoa, water will cure your hangover. Oh, drink some when the stream is over. When you have a small bladder and no sphincter control, freedom of the liquor doesn't mean freedom from soaking your drawers. Soaking your drawers.
Okay. Woo! Shit. How's it going, guys? Time to send Nick adult diapers. I won't wear them. Pants are prison. Diapers are worse. Also, diaper fetishes are disgusting. Okay, let's get back into this. Let's get back into this Trump testimony. We'll spend a little time here, not forever though. but we just gotta see how Trump testimony goes. And to my knowledge, there's not a recording of this. Will arrogant judge punish Trump lawyer Alina Habba for slamming the arrogant judge after today's proceedings? Love her statement. Probably. So here we go. This is from Inner City Press. I don't know who this guy is. He's Matthew Russell Lee. For as Inner City Press covers SD New York, UN Gate Banks, and IMF. Okay, so here we go. So you'll have to forgive me for doing this way, but I have to kind of just read through transcript. There's no way to do that. The judge says, we're not here to listen to what you have to say. You're supposed to answer. We are here to hear what he has today. They mean say, sit down, proceed. This says values are based on leases. Trump's its estimated value. New York lawyer, was the $560 million valuation based on current accurate information? Trump says yes. This document is about the mansion at Bedford Springs and says it's valued at $291 million. Was that true? I thought it was too high. We lowered it. So Trump actually lowered the valuation, he says. It's a magnificent place. Someone would pay more for it if you don't build more housing on it. Let's take a break. They take a break. I direct the witness not to talk about the case during his testimony. They're back. Trump back on the witness stand. What was the basis on which you decided to drop the valuation? I thought it was high and they dropped it. So you thought it was not worth $291 million? Trump says, I might sell it for more. This is why I love him. Like him doing this part is what Trump is great at. Because the thing they don't want Trump to do is be himself. Because he's very, very funny. There's no way around it. It's very, very funny. God is for Pearl says cool music. Love that band of Knicks. Well, it's not my band. Awesome. Love their voices and music. Who is that band? It's actually a guy, My Room Records on SoundCloud. You can find him. He's done, he did my theme song, the Peace song, and he also did several other songs for other people. My Room Records, all one word on Rumble. Very good dude, very nice guy in general. Also a strong Christian person with a very solid moral compass. Really, which is shocking that he pays attention to me at all. But he's a great dude. Go check him out. His stuff's very funny, but it's also very, very well done. Okay, so Trump, I might sell it for more because this is him, right? Like, you people are idiots. You don't know my business. I know this business better than anyone. I'm the most famous real estate business ever, right? When did you decide to lower the valuation? I said lower it. When? I don't remember. This said partnerships and joint ventures, 6th Avenue, Bank of America, and SF. Are you familiar? Yes. Says you own 30%. Is that true? I didn't put up any money. I have a great relationship with Vornado. A lot of people don't understand that. Limited partnership means limited liability. It says you don't control it. No, we have a very good relationship. You answered the question. Move on. What? Wait. Because he said no, right? You don't control it. No, we have a very good relationship. Again, this judge, he does not want Trump to pontificate. He does not want it because he knows it's getting reported. He knows they look bad. And this is a problem when you put anyone who does a business in front of a bunch of lawyers. Lawyers are excellent at scraping the surface of anything. They're great at it. They can get, frankly, I'll tell you about myself. One of the things I'm very, very good at is knowing a little bit about everything. Everything I've ever heard of. I grab little factoids here and there, and they lodge in my brain. I don't even remember them until it comes up in conversation. The other day, I was talking to someone about bow hunting. And so I started talking about bow hunting, which I have never done. Well, I kind of did once, but like we weren't effective. But I could tell you about like a compound bow, the mechanics of it, how you actually do, like how you sight things out. And like, I know enough about bow hunting on the surface to engage in a conversation. Lawyers are excellent at this. Litigators particularly, they need to be able to skim into a conversation, to do so competently, because they have to have a presence and authority in front of a jury. They're being persuasive. So it's a skill and a natural talent combined that lawyers have to do this. It makes them into chameleons. Really great in social settings. If you put me near a group of people, there's a really good chance that within about a minute and a half, I can jump into the conversation as if I have something to say. And I usually don't have anything to say, but it will get me into the conversation where then I can listen. And then I can look for another thing to kind of, work towards on a conversation. So the problem, though, is when you put a lawyer in front of an actual expert, and the lawyer isn't a very specialized lawyer who is a very specialized expert, they're going to get fucking clowned immediately. And again, whatever you think of Trump, but this man does real estate transactions at the highest levels. Apparently, he's so fucking smart, he defrauded banks who are the smartest people with their money on the planet. If you don't consider like 1929, 2008, and some other times like the early 80s, like, but they're the most sophisticated parties that exist, banks, in regards to money and lending transactions. And yet this guy put them all in a ruse and outwitted them, apparently. So that implies that he's really fucking smart. Has the lawyer ever done that? Has that lawyer ever been able to engage in one of these transactions? Probably not. And so he's going to look like a fool, and Trump gets to do it easily. He doesn't have to try here. No, it costs way more than that. What are you even talking about? You just tell them they're idiots, and it'll be true because they are. But that being said, let's keep going here. So you answered the question. Move on. That Bank of America building, I think it's the best building on the West Coast. The question was the value for both. Yes, that was the hottest period ever for properties. I don't know that I'd sell my interest. I'm going to hand the witness a document. The building's been refinanced 2 years ago. There was no question. They do not want Trump to keep going. Here's a document. Alan wants to talk to DJT. So Alan Weisselberg, probably. Does this refresh your recollection about Vornado? No, but I probably did. Back to statement of financial condition. Mr. Trump, did you believe $814 million value? I think so. Would you get the copies of the statements in 2021? I was so busy in the White House, China, Russia, keeping our country. You weren't president in 2021. Actually, he was for the first 21 days. Liar. Look to the bottom of the page. Tower Triplex, you were involved. Trump Tower Triplex, you were involved? No. Plaintiff's Exhibit Row 893. Other assets. Look down to 969, 971. The valuation of your apartment. It's not actually here. I think that's why I missed it in there. It says 327 million. It was too high. I didn't pick it up. This is actually the 2017. I misrepresented. That's okay. Beautiful. Hilarious. That's okay. It's fine. Everybody misrepresents things a little bit in court. New York Attorney General says this change. So this is not Letitia James, though. This is Wallace, the other attorney. This change in valuation came at your direction. I thought it was too high, but I'm seeing things sold for big numbers. We have access to the roof. We have the disclaimer clause. We don't have to be sued by the Attorney General of New York, but each floor of Trump Tower is 10,000 square feet. They didn't take out elevator shafts and different things. This says 117 rooms, 20,000 square foot ballroom. It says it's a private club. Is that correct? So this is Mar-a-Lago. Yes. It was transferred to an LLP in 95. Probably so. I've done that with other properties. Same today. Yes. Let's pull up the supporting data. Spreadsheet row 189. Do you believe Mar-a-Lago today is worth 1.5 billion? I'd say between $1 billion and 1.5 billion. It says PX 1013. This is the exhibit number. Rights to Mar-a-Lago. Do you see your signatures? Yes. Do you intend to forever keep it as a club? Well, a residence and a club, very successful. Do you intend? I have the right to switch it back. It says to intend. It doesn't say I will. I don't mind leaving it as a club. The best would be a club with one member. Just him. I love it. It says, whereas the National Trust is a grantee recorded in 1995 in Palm Beach, you had granted this. That's correct. Single family home. It was E.F. Hutton. This is about an easement. I built a ballroom. It was built by me. Very large, beautiful. I have a right to develop, but it's more valuable without building on it. You said it would forever be a club. No, it says intends. Now, this is an important legal distinction. Your intention to do something determines what your status is now, but your intention to do something is not binding to you. A lot of states have domicile rules. When you're establishing a domicile in a state, maybe for tax purposes, maybe for college tuition purposes, maybe for residency, for any number of things, for political purposes, etc. Your domicile is where you intend to remain for the foreseeable future. Now, you could intend to go back home in 15 years, which means that under a lot of state laws, your domicile is not in the state where you are because you intend to go back. You intend to return back to your home. That means you're temporarily there. Now, you may stay there forever, 30 years, 50 years, 100 years. If you never change your intention, and it's not a tangible thing, you don't have to like log your intention, although sometimes you need to show proof of the sort of outcome of your intentions, by getting a driver's license, by purchasing a residence, leasing a place, things like you can manifest evidence of your intentions, but your intentions are up here and they can change on a whim. Like right now, I intend to stay in Minnesota probably until I die because of family issues, and I'm probably going to die young. But all of that being said, like I would love to leave Minnesota, but I just don't think it's possible. So my intention is to stay here. But in theory, in a week, I could move anywhere else in the country. Like you can't bind me by my intention. In the same way, intending to keep it as a single family home or a club, sure, you can intend that. You can also change that intention at any point. But this is why these little quibbles matter. Mr. Trump, the court officer is handing you an article from the Palm Beach Post. You say it will forever be a club. You said that in 2003. That was said with bravado as opposed to legal intent. And again, you can't bind this is so ridiculous. You cannot bind yourself to a decision in 2003 in perpetuity. Oh, he said in 2003, I said it'd forever be a club. Therefore, I can never make it anything else. That's ridiculous. Everybody would know that's ridiculous. You're like, just think of all the things you're going to do forever that you don't, right? Like you were going to play Magic the Gathering forever. You still do, you nerd. Let's see. A club pays less taxes, right? Yes, much less. So again, but it is a club. So it doesn't matter that it pays less taxes because it is a club, not what he intends to do with it. I asked to enter this into evidence. Trump's lawyer says you'll include him saying it could go back. The one you didn't show him. Okay, I'll read it. So that's complete evidence rule. The judge has admitted. Let's look at page 6 as to item 1, private ownership. 80 qualified buyers looked at it but didn't bid, calling it a white elephant. Is it correct? Yeah, I got lucky. It's no longer a white elephant. It is not. Let's turn to your golf club in Scotland. This states 500 hectares. Was this accurate that you had permission for a residential village? Yes, it's the oil capital of Europe. Irrelevant. That's not irrelevant. That's not irrelevant. The possibility of having significant oil or other mineral interests under a property is not irrelevant to its valuation, no matter the use of the property. It only becomes irrelevant if there's a law preventing the exploitation of those resources or something. And even then, that doesn't mean it doesn't hold value, because that value could be realized at a future date with a change in legislation or a change in circumstance. This is crazy. Crazy. Here's a spreadsheet, column G valuations. It was very successful on the ocean, a big development job. I don't need to build 1,000 houses. This was an artistic expression. The greatest golf course ever built. I think I'm in no rush. I'm not looking to build right now. I'm going other things right now. I just want to sit with it. It's called an investment. So you're not building. I am building a second course. I'm not looking to build a big development. You did not build a hotel at Aberdeen because I didn't want to. I have a castle. At some point I'll go there and build maybe. What about I have a castle. I have a castle. What about the 240 million increase in valuation? Go down to 49. Well, no, it goes from 76 million. This is valuations based on 2,500 homes, but this comes to 1,400. So it doesn't accurately include the number of homes. I could go with a big job if I had to. It's a rich place. It may be the greatest golf course ever built. So again, apparently the quibble is over the valuation of the property with 2,500 homes when it has 1,400 on it. Is that stating that the value should be less, or is it stating that the value has potential for more? Here's the trick. Here's the trick. If you have a bank that is a sophisticated party, you know what they can do? They can check how many houses are on the development. I don't know if you know this, guys, but banks can check on the information you give them. They have the ability to do this, and they do it all the fucking time. All the time. You go, look, here's what the values with 2,500 homes. They're like, well, there's only 1,400 there. It's like, yeah, but if I'm talking about selling this thing, I'm putting 1,100 more homes on it. That's what we have the ability to do. That's what we do if we're going to sell the property. We're not going to sell the property based on it not being fully developed. We sell the property based on its potential. And the bank can say no. They have the ability to say no. It's fucking crazy. Banks became the dumbest people in every room now. So judge says, I'm following your lead if you want to let him ramble on. Judge isn't biased, guys. Judge isn't biased. He definitely doesn't have any sort of animus towards Donald Trump. I'm following your lead if you want to let him ramble on. I want to preserve it for the record. Trump's lawyer, it's not clear if he's answering about the backup data. I don't think it was answered. The number of homes don't match. Trump's like, it's like a painting. The land is there. You can do what you want to do. You can do either one of them. What about windmills? I was not happy. They built them. Scotland? Yes. I'm not a windmill person. I think I've been proven to be right. Windmills are kind of a disaster. Yeah, Scrappy Jack. I played EQ. I played a human bard on Solusek row and then Aone row for a while. I'm not a windmill person. I think I've been proven to be right. But Mr. Weisselberg told UK regulators the Trump org did not intend to develop due to windmills. Says they'll probably come down one day. They're miles out. That was in 2014. We were fighting the windmills. There's nothing wrong with sitting and waiting if you have the money. And I've got a lot of money, more than you thought. And then they laugh. That's Trump. It's Trump. Because the whole thing is about him not having the money that he says he does, and him saying, I've got more. I've got even more money than you. You've never even seen money. You don't even know what money is. Do I suffer from carpal tunnel? I hear bards are rubbing the hands. They were actually back then, but no, my wrist was well exercised, so because I didn't have a girlfriend. So I played a lot of video games. Jesus, guys, you're disgusting. But look, I don't want to sit and belabor the Trump testimony. I do want to use the testimony for a couple examples. All right, a couple points, a couple statements about the nature of what's going on and the nature of Donald Trump in general. Donald Trump knows. He knows. He's already lost the case because the judge just decided that he lost the case. The judge says Trump loses. He defrauded everybody. So Trump lost. This case is about two things. One, the amount of damages, which has already been put on hold by the appeals court. And two, the appeal that will follow. Those are the things that this case is now about. So Trump's lawyers want to get the judge, being a biased piece of shit, on the record as much as possible. They want to taunt the judge. They want the judge to issue gag orders that violate Trump's constitutional rights. They want him to do all of these things. Now, while he does it, while he just goes ahead and baits the hook, takes the bait off the hook, it's still frustrating. It's frustrating to see justice not work. It's frustrating to see justice administered in a way that is not respecting the rights of the people just because it's X person. And that is the justification for all of the shit we've been seeing in the past several years. It's not 2020. It's in the early 2010s. At the latest, it's there. Everything has become permissible when the target is appropriate for the mob. Trump is the appropriate target. No amount of injustice will bother anybody because Trump is the appropriate target. Too bad. That's what this police state movie was really about, that I talked about earlier, in a lot of ways, that the target makes it okay. How many of the Palestinian protesters who went inside the Capitol building and had their little sit-in powwow, how many of them were arrested, charged with terrorism, interfering with congressional duties, even trespassing? How many? I think 0. I'm pretty sure it's 0. Now, why is that? What made it so different in 2021? Now, they'll say, well, they were interfering with an election, which they had no ability to do. 0 ability to interfere with the election. At best, they delayed the election decision by a couple hours. At best. What they actually ended up doing was solidifying support for the election results that were read, because objections to the results were dropped after January 6th. Planned objections to states like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, states that were later in the alphabetical order, because they're read in alphabetical order, the elector slates. So states where people had decided to object. Now, would the objections have been successful? No, probably not. The objections are usually just read into the record and ignored. But they're still read into the record. Those objections never occurred. Now, maybe because of January 6th. That's what some of the Republicans who had the objection said, that after the quote unquote riots, that, they just weren't going to object anymore and they just let it go through. The practical effect, though, was 0, is neutral. They still had the same results that day that were quote unquote expected to be had. They did not have an ability to actually interfere with the election. Further, there's no requirement that the electoral votes be decided on that day. There's none. In fact, there's a big buffer between January 6th and January 21st, which is Inauguration Day. Now, the only requirement is that when the slates of electors' votes are tallied, that it happens prior to inauguration, and that inauguration is supposed to happen on what would at that year be January 21st. It does not mean that it has to, and in the past it has not. And the effect is rather neutral. The existing president remains in an ongoing capacity until the next president takes over. If that president is not fit to serve for whatever reason, he can be removed from office. There's plenty of processes for that. And he can be removed very swiftly if he needs to. But it just goes on. And then the vice president or even the secretary of state can run secretary of state, or I think Speaker of the House. I don't remember the succession, but they can run the country in the meanwhile. And eventually a president will be chosen by a constitutional process. That's how it works. There's no mechanism to prevent it from happening. Now, there is, if the president were to call in the military and the military were to take the president's side and perform some sort of coup. A lot of people said that was going to happen. I talked on the phone to a person who very vehemently believed that that was going to happen. I was like, you really think that's going to happen? Like, yeah, of course. Talked to military people. They said it's going to. Okay. Well, I don't know about that. Like, I never thought that that was a real possibility, but a lot of people did, but it didn't happen. That's the most important part. It never happened. It was always a rumor. Trump's going to do this. He's going to arrest the intruders, the interlopers. Who came up with the theory? I don't know. I have no idea who did. I think Trump may have said something to the effect of what he could do in the event that he found that there was sufficient evidence of fraud. Like he could instruct the military to enact some sort of arrest or I mean, he has the authority to do a lot if the military will listen. He's a commander in chief, but that doesn't mean he will. And it doesn't mean they'll listen. In any case, none of that happened. Not even fucking close. What happened was, by the early morning hours of January 7th, they had accepted every slate of voters that was predicted by the quote unquote general election that we all watched. None of them were sufficiently challenged. None of them were recalled. None of them were sent for further investigation, even though all of those things have happened in the past and are certainly able to happen at any point, including going into the future, because there is a process for deciding the president. It's kind of important, but all of those things could have happened. None of them did. And then on the 21st of January, 2021, the peaceful transfer of power through the inauguration process happened without even a burp. There was no notion that Trump was going to walk out of there president at the end of that day. All the January 6th rioters had gone home. There wasn't any January 6th left. That was fucking days ago at that point. Weeks ago, even. 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago. So, how do we get here? We get here with this uneven slate of justice. We get here with the idea that you can do whatever you want if the target is correct. And right now, the target tends to be on the right, whatever that may be. It's not everybody on the right, but it is the right in general. The right has the wrong views. The right hates the wrong people. The right thinks certain traditional values should be upheld and that others are not morally or societally acceptable. And they believe these things strongly, and that makes them quintessentially and ontologically evil, and therefore we can justify doing harm to them. The right didn't want to wear a mask, which means the right wanted to kill old people. Never mind the Democrat governors who specifically moved COVID patients into nursing homes, killing swaths of the elderly. Never mind that. The right didn't want to wear a mask at the grocery store, therefore the right killed everybody. All of these concepts boil down to mob rule. All of these concepts boil down to the majority or the tyranny of the masses, the tyranny of societal propriety. But our system wasn't built on societal propriety. The system was not built on prevailing temporary morality. And yes, I use morality in a very tongue-in-cheek way, of course, because what is moral for you is not moral for me. We disagree on basic principles somewhere. And what is moral for us, where we agree, will certainly not be moral for others because we disagree on basic principles. That is why our system is resistant to fleeting moral principles. We have guiding ethical guidelines and obligations and duties to the rights of everyone. But this trial, all of Trump's trials, show that those silly notions of a blind lady justice, of a Department of Justice that seeks answers, not victims, is long, long dead in America. And ironically, some of the people full-throatedly supporting it the most in this instance are the full-throated accusers of it in instances of race or gender or whatever fits their narrative. Their inconsistency is impossible to maintain, but they do. Because they just hope you never noticed. And why would you? You're busy. You are going to work. You're going to school. You're raising children. You are getting home and relaxing. You're getting home and helping your wife or your husband with things that they have to do. You're like, oh, I was really hoping that by the time I got home that you would have been able to get these done so we could just spend a little time together. But, it's fine. I'll go do this thing. You can do that thing. We got to do it. We got to make things work. You're busy being practical with your life. These people, you've seen them. They're not. They have no life. They have no practical need to accomplish. Their accomplishment is your suffering. Their accomplishment is standing on the freeway so that you can't get to work. Their accomplishment is writing letter after letter after letter from a roach-infested, destitute apartment that they fucking stole from someone with squatters' rights to tell you how you are abusive of someone else's something because you told a joke, said a word, sneered at a concept or an idea, or you just didn't give the right Hispanic person a ride to the barrio that day. You just didn't respect women's issues enough, you bigot. How can you not know? And you're like, well, I was at work. It's like, well, how do you not know that the women at work get paid less than you? Because most guys are looking around going, they don't. They don't. If they do, they're stupid because I don't get paid enough. And I thought I was just a fucking idiot. But apparently, if they get paid less. Dude, when I worked at Thrivent, we were obviously, a lot of companies are like this. You're not allowed to discuss your salaries. You are not allowed to discuss your compensation because they want everybody negotiating on their own terms, right? Because if you don't know this, this is important. If you do not know this, I don't know how else to tell you this. The company that hires you is interested in paying you the least value for what you're worth, the minimum. They want to buy you at a Chinese sweatshop discount. Okay? You are interested in extracting the most value out of that company, and that is where you two come together to meet. If you don't understand this, you will always get paid less than what you're worth. I mean, you're going to anyway. If you work for anybody else, you will get paid less than what you're worth, but that's just a thing that is a product of having another party involved. If you work for yourself, you will find out what you're worth. It may be less than what you think. Okay, these are realities, or maybe way more. You have no idea until you try. And that's a big risk. Not everybody should take it. I'm not advocating that you should change your life dramatically, but know that when you go into a store and they're like, what's your salary expectation? You're giving them your high number and they're going to give you and offer you a low number, hoping that you take the low number. You're worth more than that number. They may be willing to pay it. They may not. No matter what it is, I guarantee you're worth more than whatever they offer. All right. So that being said, I didn't always know this. Not everybody knows this. You have to kind of figure it out. No one teaches you. When I worked at Thrivent, I did not get super lowballed on my employment because I came very highly recommended by a coworker who had a very good reputation and a very good relationship with the manager. But I still could have probably negotiated for more. But hey, it was way more than I was making. So it's great for me. And I was like, cool, yeah. Well, I found out that some of the women around actually didn't make as much as I did, weren't supposed to find this out. But I did because they were bitching about it. Why? Have you worked with women? Okay, anyway, they're bitching about how much they got paid, and I found out that I got paid more. Not only did I get paid more, but I was in a higher salary band than them. But you know what? I'm going to say it. I earned more than them. Also, I worked harder. I knew not only my job, I knew the other 3 people's jobs, and I could do all 4 people's jobs by myself in one day if I had to. I hated it. I hated having to do that, but I could. I was worth more than them. Now, does that mean they should have gotten paid less? No, they should have negotiated for more. They should have. And that was not because they got hired by an evil man. A man hired me, women hired them. So that's their fucking fault. That's their fucking fault. But this is, if you don't believe that women should be paid more than you, then you're misogynistic, right? Like, you are awful. But most guys are looking around going like, no, these women actually do. And the data actually backs up the fact that on an hour-by-hour basis, for the same job with the same qualifications, women make more than men. Now, the reality is most men work in jobs, entire industries that are more dangerous and therefore pay more. And they end up working more hours in a long-term study because they have they don't have as good of a chance as getting pregnant as a woman does, right? Like, so there's this big section of time where they keep working. And guys tend to take extra shifts, more hours, and stuff at higher rates than women do for any number of reasons. A lot of women are parents, and they just can't take that extra time. You know, that sucks for them not being able to take the extra time, but it's great because they have a good reason not to. But for all that, most guys look around, they go, yeah, all these women, when they find out that the women all make more than them per hour, and they're like, well, shit. The fuck am I doing with my life? If you don't believe that that's good, you are the enemy. Getting back to where this stupid rant started, you are the enemy of society and of this person. Therefore, any tactic against you is wrong. That's why the Free Palestine or Free Gaza protests that have all the hallmarks of the January 6th shit, at least according to many of the defendants, if not all of them, but many of them, will not be punished. Not in any way be punished the same as the January 6th people, because those racist, misogynistic traitors to the country, they engaged in 9/11/70, right? Trump is the worst. You know why Trump is so bad? Can some liberal tell me what thing Trump did to make this country worse? Can anyone actually tell me? Not the same, not preserve a status quo, because that would be a complaint against the president, potentially, like, oh, they made it the same. What thing did Trump do that was so brutally bad for everybody? They can't. They can say he diminished the United States in the eyes of other nations or something like that, right? Like some intangible concept. He made us the laughing stock of the world. Well, not really, though. He didn't put us at war. We didn't lose a war. We didn't have a bad economy. We had a good economy. COVID was kind of I'll actually say Trump fucked up on COVID in some ways. He should have just mostly ignored it, but it's mean tweets. It's mean tweets. Now that can have, like, there is a point where presidents, as representatives of the nation, can do damage, obviously based on their words. Of course they can. I just don't see Trump actually doing that. Yo, Granny should have told you, says, Jesus Christ, Nick, now a Trump hooker too? No, actually, lots of people are mad because I'm not. But give credit where credit's due. Like, he didn't do anything that significantly impacted the country in a negative way. You can say he didn't do enough good, or he didn't balance out whatever, blah, blah, blah. But there's not like an action that he took where you can go, yeah, he really fucked us all over there. Predator says the vaccine. Now that, see, you can actually argue that, but Trump didn't do the vaccine mandates. He provided the vaccine. He got it there quickly. I'm not so happy about it, but you know, that's the kind of fucking way it goes. You have this shit that occurs, and then you deal with it. And Trump made a lot of mistakes in that front. I mean, I would say that the bump stock ban is a problem that Trump had, but these are right-wing issues. They're not left-wing issues. So yeah, it's funny because that's at the end of the day, what makes him an acceptable target is that he's just because that he is the acceptable target is what makes him the acceptable target. And that's where justice lies now. It does not lie in truth. It does not lie in evidence. It does not lie in guilt or innocence in an actual conceptual capacity. It lies solely in the political will of the masses to overlook the rights of the individual. This is what should scare everybody about Donald Trump. So today it's Donald Trump. But ask the January 6 people if they're Donald Trump. They don't have a Mar-a-Lago. They don't have attorneys that they pay $500,000 a year. They don't have a Scottish castle on a fucking 1,000 hectares or whatever. They don't get that. They're just a guy or a mom. A lady with a bullhorn gets 4.5 years. That's who they are. That's who you are too. That's who I am. And one day when the state comes knocking, what are we going to do about it? We got to fight these fucking battles where we can. All right. That's that. I need to find the Nashville Manifesto pictures. They're not being reported everywhere. Unverified documents released. Show them. Crowder posted them to the game. Oh, here we go. They're up on Twitter. So good. So we'll talk about this Nashville thing in just a second. Do you guys remember the Nashville shooter? I mean, that story kind of went away very quickly. This trans person went to Covenant School, shot a bunch of kids. And they're like, oh, we have no idea why this right-wing lunatic would do it. And it's like, that doesn't seem like a right-wing lunatic this time. It usually actually isn't a right-wing lunatic. But let's ignore that. It's more than one. It's 3 pages. 3 pages of the manifesto. It's not super long, but it's important to cover this because this fucking thing was swept immediately away. And there's other ones, Las Vegas, like that guy. Oh, we just don't know what happened to him. Please never talk about it again. There seems to be a certain prevailing ability of the news to make news disappear when it's inconvenient. And this one is a little inconvenient. But here we go. We've got this. Here's the bam. Oh, wait. Bam. So this is from Crowder. Crowder got these documents. Fustercluck expresses if it was fake, the authorities would have said so by now. Maybe. The authorities have not stated that it's fake. The authorities have stated that the release of these pictures and documents was unauthorized. That's a big difference. Randall McCollum says, Nick, look up what the judge did after Trump left the stand. His lawyers asked a question. I will do that. I will do that after this segment. So here is, let's just read the manifesto, okay? Now, when I hear manifesto, I get excited because I'm like, yes, this is going to be a long, rambling screed about something cool and interesting, but that's not what happened here. It's very, very short, 3 pages, and it's written by a fucking idiot, so it's not super cool. This is no Unbreaded, right? This is not Ted Kaczynski. This is a very disturbed and troubled person who's like, I actually want to chop my genitals up and then shoot people. So Death Day is a journal entry. It says, can we pause? How many of you write journals out there? How many of you write journals out there? Do you guys write journals? If you do, you should be on a list. You should be on a list automatically. Forget whatever I've said about free speech. If you keep a journal at all, you should be on a list. I don't get this. Like, maybe I'm just not a mass shooter. Like that. That's probably true. I am not someone who goes out and kills a bunch of people with a gun. But I feel like if I were, I still wouldn't write a journal because writing a journal is really fucking gay. And it's hard for me to consider spending my time writing a goddamn journal. Like, I got people to murder. Why am I writing this down? I'm just going to go shoot. It's kind of weird to me. Like, honestly, I don't journal about things I like really care about. I'm certainly not going to journal about shooting a bunch of jackasses and then dying. Crispy Jin says, Nick will never lucid dream on purpose. Oh, I love lucid dreaming. It's cool as fuck. Sometimes I go through phases where I have a lot of trouble dreaming, usually due to narcolepsy. But anyway, well, that's for another day. Nick, Rumble, YouTube is your journal. Yeah. But even so, I wouldn't be like, guys, this day, I'm gonna go murder a bunch of people. Like, well, maybe I would. Maybe I would say that. I don't know. If I ever become a mass murderer, you guys have to tell me if I journaled about it on Locals and YouTube or Rumble or whatever first. Like, just tell me if I said I was going to kill people. I think it'd come out of nowhere. Rumble unsubbed you from me tonight? Damn it. I got to wonder how that happens. So here we go. Death Day. Today is the day. The day has finally come. I can't believe it's here. Don't know how I was able to get this far, but here I am. I'm a little nervous, but excited too. Been excited for the past 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Sorry, total recall. There were several times I could have been caught, especially in the summer of 2021. Now, this is a very masturbatory phrase. Like that anticipation. Oh, they could have caught me. They could have stopped it, but they didn't. I'm smart. I'm so good. This is what, that's what they did. There were several times I could have been caught. None of that matters now. I'm almost an hour and 7 minutes away. Excuse me. You have to understand this. This crazy fucking monster is writing this an hour beforehand. This is what it's not like it was 2 days before. This is the day they're about to get in a car, a bus or whatever and go murder people. And they're like, I got to write this down. Like that guy in Memento or whatever, Guy Pearce. Got to write it down. Why? Why do you have to write this down? Can't believe because they don't have anyone to talk to, I guess, right? Can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm ready. I hope my victims aren't. Well, that's weak. You should hope to face your victims armed and emerge victorious. My only fear is if anything goes wrong. I'll do my best. Well, something went wrong. You got dropped. But did some damage. I'll do my best to prevent any of the sort. God, let my wrath take over my anxiety. It might be 10 minutes tops. It might be 3 to 7. It's gonna go quick. I hope I have a high death count. Ready to die. Ha ha ha. And then they signed it. Like, this is a trans person. All I have to say to this trans person is in the most sensitive way I can. Fag. I wish you'd got bullied harder. Should have been bullied for having a journal more than being trans or whatever else you got bullied for. You definitely for having a journal. That's what you should have been bullied for. But having the journal is proof that they were trans, I think. So that's the first page. Here's the next page. Kill those kids. Those crackers. This is what people are really focusing on right now. Going to private fancy schools, those fancy quackies, I think khakis and sports backpacks with their daddy's Mustangs. Hey, wait a minute. Fuck you. Convertibles. Fuck you, little shits. I wish to shoot you weak ass dicks with your mop yellow hair. To be fair, there is one thing I agree on, and that is the Zoomer haircut. If you have the Zoomer haircut, like if you have the shaved sides and back and that floof, that like eraser floof up forward, you deserve to be mass shot. Want to kill all you little crackers, bunch of little faggots with your white privileges. Fuck you, faggots. Based. I do want to say this. My kid's not allowed. My kid is finally old enough to drive with a parent. And my kid is not allowed to drive my Mustang. Because you have to earn being an asshole. You can't just bestow that upon them. So the final thing, this is just it's a schedule. It's a schedule. DTLS 1983 says a pompadour. I mean, you might call it that, but it's not a pompadour in the sense that it used to be a pompadour. It's now the Zoomer cut. You got to just look up the Zoomer cut. So here's the death day later schedule. They scheduled it out. Who schedules out their murder? They're like, you know what? I better fit this into my Google calendar. Gonna make sure we go ahead and do this. 6:30 a.m. desired. I think that's death day or whatever. And 7 a.m. get dressed. 7:05 to 8:55. Something with stuffed animals and possessions. Or are they gonna cuddle for a while? Like, I need my support stuffies before I go murder children. Eat breakfast. Gotta have a good breakfast. That's a good strong start. Hopefully they had some Apple Jacks. Don't you want to know like what the tranny murderer ate for breakfast so we cannot buy from that company? Because that would be the thing, right? If it was a right-wing person, they'd be like, oh my God. He used Mead notebooks to make his fag journal. Therefore, Mead Notebooks loves trans murderers. 9:30, pack up special belongings and backpack. Well, you got a bitch breakfast if you're done in 30 minutes. 9:50, test knife core glass breaker. Dad's old cars. Rude. 10 a.m. leave for Royal Range. 19 to 20 minutes. 10:20, gear up and set up guns in the trunk. Assemble and get out. Rest with magazines inside. 11:20, final videotape. So they got to put out a last TikTok or something. 11:30, nothing. 11:35, leave for Covenant School. 12, arrive at Covenant, check parking lot for security. 12:05, arrive in designated parking space. 12:05 to 12:10, somewhere in there. Prepare for the attack. And then 12:10, lock and load all weapons. 12:37, open fire towards southwest entrance. Time to die. It's a she. Stop calling by. I don't know what it is. I literally don't know which one. Like, I don't know which way the trans goes. I don't care about this. I don't care about this thing. It's not like I'm trying to like honor their pronouns. I just literally don't give a shit about this person. I'm glad they're fucking dead. I wish they wouldn't have shot people and gotten help instead. Obviously, I would prefer everybody to be alive in this situation. But once they decided to murder children, like, you got to kill them. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Let them run around murdering people all day? You can't fucking do that. So no, I'm not trying, like, I legit don't know male to female, female to male. I don't know. It doesn't matter. People are saying female to male. Cool. An addictomy. Hope you got the pump. You think they were doing that? They're pumping up their own erection while they're shooting children. The only thing that you wish on these people is that they could have been bludgeoned to death with a fucking hammer. But hey, you know, it is what it is. I don't know, man. I have a hard time with that. My faith, my morals really hate the idea of killing anybody. Even in, like, obviously you kill someone to prevent the death of someone you care about, yourself, right? Like, you have to do that. But you always want there to be another option. Like, you don't want to take the life. And I hate when the state does. I think the state did right here. Got to drop this person. They're obvious danger to everybody around. No, there's no error in judgment here. There's no like, oh, maybe they got a piece of shit who did it. But you still want like the better outcome for everybody, because less dead kids would have been better. Like 0 dead kids would have been preferable. Them getting caught and getting some sort of treatment or confinement for the rest of their life would have been the ideal thing. But once they get there and they start opening fire on kids, like I can't bring myself to that Christian forgiveness and compassion for them. I can't do it. And I think that's what people identify with these days. Like they're like, look, we try to be understanding. We try to be compassionate, but at some point, like, the rapist needs a bullet. The child killer needs a bullet. The animal torturer needs a bullet. Like, these people are menaces. We don't see redemption for them. And importantly, I am, by the way, full disclosure, I'm against the death penalty because I think the state is really shitty at doing anything. And I don't trust the state to properly administer the death penalty. I think the state has the right to do the death penalty. I think the state should always have the right for the death penalty. I just don't trust the state's judgment on it. Now, my friend Steve Gosney is different. He has a moral opposition to the death penalty based on his faith or whatever, which is fine. Mine is based on the practicality of, I don't want to be at the mercy of the state when there's a death penalty, because the state gets things wrong all the time. And I don't want to have my rights abrogated finally by death if they're incorrect. And they would be, because I'm not a fucking murderer. So if you ever see me like murder someone, it was Hillary who did it. And I'll take that to my grave. But that's the reason I oppose the death penalty. But when you see a mass shooter shooting people, all you want in the world is that person fucking removed from Earth. And I don't think that's even controversial. And we go way beyond that. We just want the person to be guilty of the thing that they did. And I'm not one of those people, by the way. I am not one of those people who's like, well, they were insane, or there's some infirmity that blah, blah, blah. We can't kill them because they didn't know. No, I'm sorry. When you are faced with this thing, is the person violating the rights ultimately and permanently of someone else? Then they're an existential threat to their fellow man. And I'm sorry that they might be mentally compromised or stupid or, have CTE from football in a public school. I don't know what they have. I don't care at that point. Because do you care why the person is murdering your child at a school? Do you care what led them down this path of social aberration and these thoughts of, that they needed to cleanse society from the scourge of your fucking kid. Well, no. Like, you don't care if they're retarded. You don't care if they're dumb. You don't care what race they are. You just go, that person is murdering my child. They need to be stopped. They're a menace. The impact on the victim is sufficient to justify the penalty immediately. We just always want to make sure the penalty is being applied to the right person. These mass shooter things, kind of obvious usually who it is, right? Like, it's not like a mystery. The funny thing about mass shooters, they're the most obvious. But I don't know about you guys, but over the past several years, I'm the most suspicious of their death at the hand of the state, because they don't die after trial, right? Well, Nicholas Cruz, I don't think he got the death penalty, but Nicholas Cruz he went to trial. Ethan Crumbley, he's going to trial, or he pled guilty, or whatever it is. But these ones that die at the scene by the state, you're like, wait a minute though. Now we don't get to hear the story. Now what are you hiding? Now why are they dead? Those are the ones I'm most suspicious of. Which is weird. Like, I want the state to kill these people the most. They're the most evil and horrific beings ever. Dude, Adam Lanza, that Newtown shooting still horrifies me to this day. To think of someone lining up like kindergartners and just shooting them in the face is crazy. It's a level of depravity and evil that we can't comprehend. And the reason you can't comprehend it, and this is important to understand, as bad and gloomy and horrifying as our world can be, that is a rare occurrence. But there's nothing making that a rare occurrence. Anybody can go to a school and shoot children. There's nothing stopping them other than the basic fucking humanity that you have to betray to do something so foul and heinous. But there's nothing preventing anybody. The law doesn't stop them. Every school shooter proves the rule that the law is ineffective at preventing the crime. Law isn't meant to prevent crime. It's meant to deter crime, and it's meant to punish crime. Those are two different things in prevention. Deterring crime is making someone decide that the cost is not worth the action if they get caught. Punishing crime is the punishment after the fact. That's what the criminal justice system was built upon, this idea of retroactive punishment, not preventative care. Now we want law enforcement to stop crime before it happens, but that kind of abridges on core principles of liberty. You have to, at some point, punish speech and thought crime. Like, what if this journal exists and Trooney McTroonface doesn't go open fire on a gun on a school? What do we do? And that's the most challenging question here, right? You get this manifesto, but Queen wannabe a guy doesn't bring the rifles out and doesn't shoot the children. Does this person go to prison for that manifesto? Do they get involuntarily committed? What is it? What is it without the deaths? That's the problem that our country has been wrestling with, because our country knows that punishing gun ownership and trying to vilify guns is impossible. However, what do we do with free speech when it translates to action is easy, but when it doesn't? Because this manifesto What's it say? It says you're going to do these things. Are you going to? Do you do them? What steps do you have to take? How far down the schedule? Here's the schedule again. How far down the schedule does this person go before we say, okay, now they're a danger? Because I tell you what, it's not at eating breakfast. It's not at snuggling with your gay stuffed animals. It's not at testing the knife. It's not going to the range. It's not packing up the guns. Is it getting to the Covenant school? What if they stop at the Covenant school and say, I can't murder a bunch of kids, and they drive off? Where is it? This is a hard fucking question. There isn't a good answer on this one. Arclight Redux says, can you please not defend a mass shooter? I'm not defending a mass shooter. I'm defending the thousands and thousands of people out there who don't mass shoot anyone, but write down something troubling. Because I bet a lot of you have written down troubling things. I know I did when I was in high school. I wrote down troubling things. I read a poem to my class in English about burning them all to death in a fire. Me burning with them, of course, but not being mad about it. Was I going to burn anybody in a fire? Well, fuck no. I wasn't that self-loathing. I just wanted to see him squirm when I read the poem to the class in my writer's class, because teacher made us write poems. Writing poems is gay. So what is it though? I didn't have any intention of harming anybody. Just a stupid, nerdy kid. I wasn't even mad at the world. I wasn't even mad at school. I just thought it would be funny. It was. At the end of the day, it was funny. Like the look on people's faces. But those people were also my friends. Right? Like I wasn't super popular. Like I wasn't like in the popular group of people, but I knew a shitload of people in all different contexts because I floated between cliques. I get along with just about everybody. That's not like a new thing for me. I always have. Because I'm a chameleon in conversations. It's really easy to do. It's a skill set that I was built with forever. So like I could hang out with the jocks or I mostly played hacky sack, right? And I hung out with the stoner kids, but I didn't smoke weed. But I mostly just played hacky sack and tried to skip school whenever I could because school was stupid. But that being said, like I was friends with people in all these different cliques. So the people knew I wasn't doing it, but still like the cringe was huge. It was great. I thought it was funny. But if you found that poem and I had burned the school down, way different story, right? I can't imagine. There's got to be thousands of people who have written something akin to this and not done anything. And this is a scary thing for people to confront because this is the red flag law question, right? This is the question of thought crime. This is the question of where do we stand when someone writes this down? Because we always say the FBI knew. Well, the FBI knew. They knew they had encounters with this person. Sure. What do they know? Because when they know you, trust me, you don't want them to do what you want them to do to the mass shooter. We always get to apply this in reverse. So I'm asking you guys to think about because I don't know the answer. It's a very uncomfortable question. What do we do with the person who says, fuck these cracker, whitey, rich faggots. I'm going to go to their faggot school and I'm going to put bullets in their faggot little bodies. Fuck them. White colonialist cocks. I'm going to fucking shoot them. All of them. What do you do when they write that down? Does that person not get guns? They have their speech rights abridged. They never sent it to anybody, right? They just wrote it down in their notebook. You find it. Your teacher, you find it in their class, in their desk. You see something, you're like, oh, what the fuck is this? Well, they're out at something. They pull it out of their desk and they're like, holy shit, what do I do with this? What do you do? It's scary. because our brains immediately want to punish that person. Our brains immediately want that person investigated. Oh, just put them in mental health care, whatever. Put them wherever. But that's thought crime, right? Does this transcend thought crime? Does it become something real because they wrote it down? Because I guarantee you, people have these thoughts. Whether they write it down or not is irrelevant. I wouldn't write anything down unless I was making a joke that required writing it down. But I would never write anything down. All of my dark thoughts in high school, junior high, those times when you really hate someone or something, those stayed up here forever. Didn't make them less real because I didn't write them on lined paper. So what do we do with these people? What do we do with these instances? And that is the thing I don't fucking know the answer to. Because the answer clashes with our rights. The answer clashes with my principles. I see this manifesto and I want this person investigated. I want them questioned. I want them involuntarily committed until we're sure they're not a danger. But then I think of myself and I go, there's plenty of people who would have said that about me. And it was never true. It was never a danger to anybody. But that involuntary commitment, that's on your record forever. That will always be there. And nowadays, that red flag involuntary commitment involves the confiscation of any firearms you may have and potentially the long-term impact of your rights, even if you're not convicted. So how do we do that? And I don't know. I wish I had an answer. I don't know. This is where freedom conflicts with practicality. The practicality is that tyranny is a way better and more efficient law enforcer than freedom forever. Because tyranny goes the way of horrible people to say, I don't care if innocents die to prevent harm to at a certain level. I don't care if innocent people suffer to prevent harm at some level. Maybe it's harm to children. Maybe it's harm to, masses of people. Maybe it's harm to a particular race. You go, I don't care how many innocent people we sweep up in this. We've got to stop this thing from happening. A lot of people feel that about child sex trafficking and stuff like that. I do. I'm like, fuck, let's prevent it at all costs. But then you run up against the liberty question. How much liberty do we sacrifice for the security? In the free state, the free nation, the liberty position is actually much harder to reconcile. It's where we go, risk is part of freedom. Mitigating risk means losing liberty. I wish I had a way to cap this off, but I don't. It's the unending and eternal question of a free state. Until we don't have one, then we don't get to ask anymore. And that's scarier. So, here we go. Literal Aardvark says, EQ nerd. I run a private server. Pyrelight meant to be soloable, but not trivial. Some neat custom stuff like multi-classing and Diablo Rift type mechanics. Still in development, but quite playable. Sounds good. Dude, I can't play games like that anymore. It's the only thing I've ever been actually addicted to in my life, like where I let it interfere with my personal life in really dramatic ways and had to stop. And had to stop to the tune of selling my account and not being able to play because had to. It's just how it was. But I loved the game. It was so much fun. I love the people. Still have friendships from it, but yeah, that shit fucked up so many lives that I knew of. Kate of the Swiss says, I think I know one of the people on the list that filed that fraudulent ethics complaint. Awesome. Very cool. DSP Gaming says this whole bias thing with Trump is gay. I guess a Republican judge presiding over Trump's Florida case has a pro-Trump bias. Republican judges can't preside over well-known Democrat politicians, right? No. No, the question is always, does their bias manifest in a way that's prejudicial to the defendant? That's it. And there's also a different category of rights that go along with it. Criminal trials, the bias is actually more egregious than in civil trials. Now, Engoron is in a civil trial against Trump. The bias isn't as impactful, but I mean, Engoron's rulings are overtly biased. His gag orders are overtly biased against Trump. That is kind of a problem. They're manifesting results of the bias. Now, at the onset, do we say, well, and you won't find me doing this, by the way. At the onset, they tried to have him removed, and they didn't have any evidence that would show an obvious bias. Now, political bias is an inference. We can go, oh, they might be politically biased because they're Democrat or whatever, but he wasn't appointed by like Biden or anything like that. There doesn't seem to be an obvious conflict of interest with Engoron other than his political affiliation. Fine, though. That's not an issue until it becomes an issue. But it can explain why the issue occurs, right? It's very simple to see this. And there's one last thing, though. A biased judge in favor of a defendant in a criminal trial is a moral good. Because fuck the state. You are not guilty until proven guilty after due process. So if you are in a criminal trial, this is hard for people to remember. You are not guilty during that trial. So a biased judge in the favor of a defendant is in the favor of non-guilt. You may not like that. Them's the fucking breaks. The answer is always first, fuck the state. All right. Next, we got Nick Naylor says, Nick didn't play EverQuest. He was cripplingly addicted. So don't say things like Salos Accelerando, Chords of Dissonance, Battle Chant, Speed Drum, Lay on Hands, Wizzy Spire, Black Burrow, etc. Yeah, no, don't say any of that. Very dangerous. Gotta keep my EverQuest in, man. But no, the thing with Trump is not that Engoron had a potential to be biased. It's that he is biased. It's manifest. Fire PA says, what's the coolest thing about Mar-a-Lago? Dude, the location is insane. West Palm Beach is one of the richest places I've ever been. It's just money. It's money everywhere. The cars, you know, I saw Bugattis, I saw McLarens, you see Lamborghinis, Corvette Z06s, which are hard to fucking find. The new ones. You see all these things everywhere. There's every fucking building's just financial institutions all over the place. And the houses are unreal. They're unreal. But the location in general is amazing. Oh, and the yachts, of course. The location of Mar-a-Lago is fucking amazing. The building, I mean, to be honest, Trump owns it. It's gaudy. It is not my style at all. It is way overdone, way overstated, but that's what he seems to like. So cool on him, I guess. But it's not my preferred style of house in that respect. But the location's insane. You know, it's obviously huge. It's well laid out as far as I could tell. We didn't go into like the main house. We went to that 20,000 square foot ballroom. There's a pool outside where most of the event was. But you do have to walk around the property. And as you're walking around it, you're like, this is a big fucking house. But yeah, so it was cool. I liked it. Fire PA, Nick, should I write you in to be a judge of my local elections? Literally all just incumbents. So it's not going to matter anyway. If you want to, if you don't want to vote for the incumbents, write me in. Sure. Reformed Convict says Steiner Math is a wrestling promo by the big bad booty daddy, Big Poopa Pump Scott Steiner. It's hilariously great. All-time best promo. Linked above. It's only 2 minutes long. If you will watch, it's worth it. Maybe. Ben SC says, based on my experience, there is far more than the 3 pages. I would say 50 plus pages easily. Oh, of the manifesto. Yeah, I'm sure there's more of it. But this is all that's been released so far is far as I know. And Sleestack Nation says Trump has taggy taste. Mar-a-Lago is still way more than 18 million. If you guys don't know about how real estate valuation works, the decor of a property, especially when you're talking about millions and millions of dollars worth of property, is irrelevant to the valuation unless the decor has some sort of special character to it. If it's gold leaf or something that would be eventually very expensive on large scales, yes. If it has frescoes done by famous artists, there's some irreplaceable aspect of it, sure, that can be it. But just generally being like one style of design over another on the inside, no, that can all be redone. It's about how fucking big is it? How functional is it? Does it have necessary defects to correct in some way? Cracked foundations? Does it have appliances that are relatively new? The rest is all taste, and taste is changeable and malleable. Now, if it would cost a fortune to outdo what's done there, you could start to get into impacts. But when you're talking about a property that's in the hundreds of millions of dollars, the idea of paying 1% of a purchase price to redo do significant facial decorative changes is not that big of a deal. Even the price of 10% or higher, depending on how much you need to do. So the design of Mar-a-Lago and like the aesthetic of it, first of all, it wasn't that bad. Like outside, some of the inside stuff is gaudy, sure, but it fits the outside in a weird way. But that being said, that doesn't really factor in as much to valuation as location, literal square footage, what the replacement or repair cost is. And I think the replacement cost of the building at Mar-a-Lago, just the building, is something like $300 million. Like, it's insane to think that it's only worth 18 million. But hey, that's where we are. Oh, I'm supposed to look up Trump lawyer judge Edrogan or Aragon. I don't know his fuck his name. What is the something happened at the end of the trial? Trump lawyers attack law clerk. How many babies did you suck off today, Jew? Wait, are you talking to me? I'm not actually Jewish. What happened today? Engoron. I can't fucking spell his name. Engoron. Trump tangles with judge. Can you help us lawfully dismantle our government? I wish. Trump lawyers asked the judge a question at the end. It was supposed to be funny or some shit. Where the fuck is this? Question. I don't know. I don't know if I can find this thing. Maybe here. Some live. Fuck away. Load more. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I'm supposed. Oh, wait, here we go. Thank you to Fire PA for sending this. Judge says, or this from Joe. Hey, what's up, Joe? We're gonna have Joe on very soon. Again, he says, crazy scene unfolded after Trump was excused from testifying. Trump lawyers asked about timing for filing motion for directed verdict / mistrial based on private communications with the court. Judge says, I'm prohibiting you from filing that. Lawyer says, I have to file it. Judge, don't do it, Chris. The judge finally relented. Wow. Yeah, okay. Don't file that. Don't file that. Please. So what's the significance? I guess people want me to comment on it. Of course, you have to file it. The judge is going to rule against it, and then they appeal it. Right? Directed verdict and mistrial based on private communications with the court. Oops. Please don't file that. I'm going to file it. I'm preventing you from filing it. What do you mean you're going to prevent me from filing it? You have to take the filing, Judge. You have to accept the filing. You can rule against it, but you have to take the fucking filing. You can't just pretend it doesn't exist or didn't happen. The attorneys get to petition this, but this is just more evidence. Now, the judge relented and allowed them to file the document they were definitely going to file anyway. But the fact that the judge would even consider barring them from filing a motion is insane. It's about his notes with his girlfriend. Yeah, the clerk, right? The clerk. Here's the thing. Those notes better only contain legal advice, Judge. You say you have an absolute right to them. What are they? What do they say? What do they actually say? Because you don't have an absolute right to every communication. You have an absolute right to legal counsel from your clerk. Of course you do. That's why you have the clerk. But if your clerk is saying inappropriate and biased comments, so it's beautiful. Beautiful. But this, again, this one should be obvious. This judge is biased against Trump, and he is biased to the prejudice of the defendant. And this is the thing people don't understand often is the way we balance out the fact that there's a lot of bias and prejudice in the world. There's a lot of bias and prejudice in the world. We make decisions based on looks immediately. It's how we don't die on the average day, right? Like if you go to Chicago, you see certain people, you don't go by them. If you see homeless people, depending on the homeless person, you either will walk past them with no threat or you'll walk to the other side of the road because they look insane or dangerous. We make split-second decisions and judgments. They may be right, they may be wrong, doesn't matter. But when those materially prejudice a party in a case or a witness or whatever, when that materially prejudices it, then now we have something else. Judges are biased against defendants all the time. Judges see, think about it this way. You're a judge and you live in a county with a high police population, for example. Now, statistically, you're going to be dealing with a lot, and a high lesbian population. Statistically, you're going to deal with a lot of domestic abuse cases, right? You're going to eventually become prejudiced against defendants who are accused of domestic assault because you see so many people who do it, and you're like, why don't you just stop beating your spouse? Like, can you just not do that? But they keep doing it. Eventually, you're going to become prejudiced towards them. You're going to have negative ideas about these people just because they come in front of you all the time. Now, how you handle that prejudice, how you handle that negative inference from their appearance and their accusations, that depends. Now, if you have a negative thing, but you actively combat that bias and you don't materially prejudice them, even if you say stuff that is bad, but the evidence that comes in, like the rulings on the evidence is reasonable, the application of law is all correct, the factual basis is all there, then you're fine. Now, if you don't allow the admission of exculpatory evidence or you allow the admission of hearsay that is highly prejudicial, those types of errors, those become the things that become the basis for appeals. But people appeal on bias all the time. They don't win most of the time because most of the time the bias doesn't matter. Bias against Ethan Crumbly for shooting up a bunch of children at a school. But so you're biased against him doesn't mean you automatically are ruling against him in ways that prejudice him. Same thing about Trump. But in this case, the judge is clearly biased in a way that materially prejudices Donald Trump. And that's going to be a big fucking problem. And if the law clerk is sending biased communications towards the judge, that'd be an interesting thing to see. All right, guys. Hey, we're going to wrap up the show here. I'm glad to be back, but I'm not going to belabor the point. We hit all the main topics tonight. I have some other ones that we're going to get into as we go. We may be having some guests very soon as I get back into the saddle. There will be a local exclusive stream tonight in just a few minutes after we get done here. But thank you all for hanging out and watching with me. Over 10,000 of you still watching, which is fucking awesome. I love you guys here on Rumble. And I'm glad to be back after a short break to go down to Mar-a-Lago. We will have way more tomorrow. With that, guys, let's just close this thing out. We'll see you tomorrow night. And stay tuned to recadalaw.locals.com for announcements of anything else. Yeah, I don't want to say too much because I hate over promising. But yeah, we'll just stay tuned there for free. And if you see something you like, go ahead and subscribe. $5 a month, $50 for the whole year. If you want to do that. All right, guys, we'll catch you soon. Have a good night. Peace. Peace.
Oh, he drinks a fair bit, but you realize that it just helps get his noggin jogging along. With his glass by his side and his kids asleep tight, we'll hear some law-splaining tonight. With his microphone muted, we'll laugh at this boomer until he explains it's all part of the plan. Watch his face become redder as he becomes madder, raging at idiots from Twitterland. From the white shores of Maine to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what we have now. Oh, his lady is fair, and she handles herself with the grace of one who has borne many children. As the wife of a lawman, she makes sure that he has the time and the place to provide for them there. So pour out an ardbeg, a bow, more of that brug. The spirits blow as the ones who get unemployed. So pour out a glass for the tea post on Twitter, as we hear law-splaining tonight. From the white shores of Nairn to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what we have now. Oh, the guests are all plentiful, from Doug T to Drexel. They bring their perspective and spice to the mix. But the reason we're here and the one that we cheer is the one who is showcasing us his career. Get unemployed. So pour out a glass for the tea post on Twitter, as we hear law-splaining tonight. From the white shores of Nairn to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the